Council will call the special meeting of the City Council to order. For the record, it's Tuesday, December 16, 2025 at 5:30 PM. We'll begin tonight's special City Council meeting with roll call attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Cavanagh.
Here.
Councilwoman Little Roberts. Councilman Taylor. Councilman Overton. Councilman Whitlock.
Here.
Mayor Simison.
Here. Next up is adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
no changes. We're gonna get through as many as we can and then carry over to our next meeting. So I move that we adopt the agenda as published. Second.
Motion is second to adopt the agenda as published. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And the agenda is agreed to. First item up is item one, addendum to state and local agreement between the City of Meridian and the Idaho Transportation Board and through the Idaho Transportation Department for the rail with trail pathway. Turn this over to Mr. Barton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Appreciate your time this evening. We're after a kind of a long journey with this project. We're really happy to be here. And the first item is tied to the second item, and the second item is they're all interconnected. So we'll take them one by one. And the first one is we're asking for your approval to an addendum to the state and local agreement that was originally approved in 2016 and amended in 2022. So this addendum will solidify a grant funding in the amount that's on the agreement. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Council, any questions on the addendum? Okay, then with that, we'll go on to item two, which is fiscal year 2026 budget amendment in the amount of $183,955 for railroad trail pathway construction. Turn this over to Mr. Martin for comments.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you. We are asking for a budget amendment to approve our proportionate share to the grant funding for $183,955.
Is there discussion? Councilman Locke.
Mayor,
Councilman Locke.
move that we approve agenda item number 2, fiscal year 2026 budget amendment in the amount of $183,955.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve item 2. Is there a discussion on the motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
quick, want to thank Mike and Kim. I had bad memory. This project's been going on a long time and I appreciate Kim setting the record straight and getting me educated today. And I'm really hoping we get this project moved forward and wrapped and lots to celebrate. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, team. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
And if I could, if Kim, Steve, John, if we can also give an appreciation to Compass. We've taken Compass back and forward and through and in and out over the years with trying to make this happen through all the challenges we've had. And they've been really good to us to help keep this project moving forward and us staying online. So if we can send our appreciation to them, would really appreciate it. So
Thanks.
With that, let's quick call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh.
Aye.
Little Roberts.
Aye.
Overton. Whitlock.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries. The item is agreed to. So with that, we'll move on to item 3, which is agreement between the owner and contractor of construction contract between the City of Meridian and Mountain Companies LLC for railroad trail pathway.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, if you approve this final item that we have for you this evening, our contractor is ready to start. So we're asking for your approval to the mountain companies to build the rail with trail pathway in the amount of $949,269.
Mayor,
Councilman Whitlock.
I move that we approve agenda item number 3, the agreement to move forward on the rail with trail pathway.
Second.
Have a motion second to approve item 3. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The item is agreed to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Okay. With that, we'll move on to item 4, which is our Employee Health Benefits Trust quarterly update. I don't know if Christina, Scott, who, both, neither, neither. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I have Scott Howell here with me from Gallagher. We're going to tag team this presentation as soon as it comes up. All right. So we've been before you a couple times. One of the things that I wanted to just reiterate with all of you, the trust commitment is to provide you quarterly financials, annual statements, and audit results so that you are aware of what's going on with the trust. Part of that is my return here today to provide you the latest update that we have. And then provide overall analysis of the financial status of the trust. Again, another reason we're here today, and provide any answers to any questions that you might have along the way. So as we were working through the presentation and the executive summary, there were some questions that came up about how did we get to where we are? And so I know this is really small, but I kind of wanted to go back to when the trust actually was in a good spot financially. And so that was Q3 of 24. We had 765,000 and some change in the account that credited, our reserve and our surplus funding. We then had Q4 additional claims, and there is a typo, that should be Q4, not Q3, that came in at $877,000. So it ate up all of that surplus that we had and put us in a deficit, and we've remained in a deficit ever since. Q1, we had additional claims of 437,000. And so those claims rolling in from Q1 into Q2, now we're at 550,000, which we came to you and asked for the funding to rectify that deficit. That funding was not received and credited until Q3, which you can see there. And then in Q3, we had additional claims of 565,000. So again, putting us in a deficit. We reported to the Department of Insurance for Q3 a $748,000 deficit. We had requested 182 to satisfy the deficit that was remaining from Q2. We received that in Q3. So it's all about kind of timing of when we get these funds so that we can make sure that we are adequately funding in an appropriate timeframe. So that leaves a deficit of 565,000. We project there will be a deficit in Q4 of 314,000. We've received a rebate for our pharmacy of 99,000, getting us to the 781,000 that we're requesting this evening. I'll pause there because I know there's a lot of confusion and trying to track this and trying to explain it. So I want to make sure I answer any questions.
Councilman Cameron.
This is helpful. So when we are really reporting a Q3 deficit, it's actually a combination of previous quarters deficits that haven't been paid entirely because the deficits exceeded more than we projected.
Correct.
That piece alone, I think, is really, really helpful. When I see a piece of information that says Q3 deficit, that's the number that we're starting at 0, and it's really, it's not, it's Q2, Q1 in the past. So
Correct.
That to me helps me really understand how we got to this particular number, because from a council standpoint, it feels like we're chipping away at this each quarter and the dollars are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So that at least satisfies at least my initial question is, how do we get to $748,956? It would be helpful, I think, just Mr. Mayor, if I may, in the future, the previous contribution of $550,000 isn't really reflected, whereas you reflect the 182,000, at least, and I apologize, I've got 3 different memos that I'm trying to kind of track off of. In one memo, one of them from today, we recognize previous funding from the city at 182,988, but we don't reflect, at least in this memo that I'm holding, the 550,75 that we previous. So just feedback, I think, to the trust is the more clarity, the more transparency. I don't know if you were here for the conversation about staff reports, but trying to make it easy for us to understand. When it's easy for us to understand, there's probably less questions because we're able to track. And my other just piece of feedback is words are used kind of interchangeably. It's like in thinking this one here, we talk about additional claims, but additional claims is really building towards our deficit, right?
Based on where our financial status is right now, yes.
So I think it would be helpful for us to understand, okay, these additional claims resulted in X amount of additional dollar deficit, because later on you do reflect deficit, but up at the top you don't. So just, I think those are some feedback that will help make it easier for me to understand, and where I've had some real frustrations and challenges with getting information, the easier we can get it, the better it is. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. I
appreciate
appreciate
that.
that
Thank you.
feedback. And I'm going to continue to keep this chart that you're seeing now, so it can become familiar and I can just keep it rolling as we go on and things, debits and credits come in. That way we have a familiar format that everyone understands moving forward.
Perfect. And Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cannon.
I know we've still got some other action on this, but an end of the year, what our total deficit was and versus what we projected it was going to be would be helpful for us to understand, because I think it's important for us if we're going to probably spend over $1 million than we projected on this. And as we're getting ready to go into budget, we want to make sure we want to make sure the trust has the dollars they need. So you're not having to keep coming back, because I know that's not a fun thing for you guys either. I want to avoid that for you all as well. But if we can have and recognize this is all driven by claims, and we can't predict who's going to get sick and how extreme those claims are. But it's good for us to get a good sense of like, oh, we spent $1 million more than we anticipated. As we go into budget, we should maybe probably plan to increase our budget by a larger amount so that we're not finding ourselves in this situation.
And your CFO will, he does that.
Okay.
So when these come in, they're over what he thought they were going to be based on the previous year's increases or expectations. So,
Mr. Mayor, we may
Yes,
want
sir.
to have a larger just trust conversation as part of our budget planning for this year, just so that we can be caught in the loop as to what those trends are, what's driving costs. I think that we should.
I think that's maybe the next part of this conversation.
Absolutely. So what we anticipate is, and Scott's going to get more into that as we get further into this presentation, but try to anticipate not ending in a deficit. But we had several factors this particular year, starting actually in Q3 of last year, that contributed to things that we could not foresee. So like the city budget, you plan that out 1.5 years in advance. We do the same thing. And so we're trying our best at the estimates, looking at previous data, those types of things, but there are factors outside of our control. What I want to try to do, and what I had committed to do, for the trust, is to make sure we're bringing that information to you a little more timely, that you guys are getting those updates quarterly so that you aren't blindsided as you were this year.
Great, thank you.
So we've talked about this, and I kept this in the slide because it is still relevant. The remainder of 2025, we've got claims through this week. We know that those are exceeding our contributions to date, and October through January are usually our highest months. So I'll turn it over to Scott here.
Yeah, so this is just a snapshot of our monthly claims versus funding. You can see on each month we have a fair amount of volatility based on the claims that come in. We also have some stop loss reimbursements for claims that are large enough to trigger the stop loss. You can see that most of the months of this year our claims costs have exceeded our funding. We've talked a little bit in the past about what led to this. As Christina mentioned, we set these projections about 1.5 years in advance of the end of the plan year. So we're talking about setting these numbers in like the 26 numbers we were setting in the summer of 25. And so the tools and the information that we have is all historical, and we make some projections, assuming that things will kind of stay the same as they are, just with some inflation. And as Christina mentioned, in the Q4 of 24, things took a really serious turn towards the more expensive and have remained there. So that's kind of what led to this. This chart, we developed it just thinking that it would be a helpful illustration to show what the Department of Insurance requires us to maintain as far as a balance in the trust. And that's the shaded green part on the bottom. That's composed of two items. One is the surplus. The department gives us a couple of different ways to calculate that. Those two calculations One of them results in a $2.4 million number. The other results in a $3.5 million number. We use the $2.4 million number. And then the other component is IBNR, which is incurred but not reported claims. So that's a reserve to cover claims that where services have been rendered, but we haven't seen the bills yet. And that amount right now is $479,000. So between those two, the Department of Insurance requires that we have a balance of just under $3 million in the trust. And you can see that since the fourth quarter of 24, we have dipped below that. And we have a funding increase, a contribution increase coming in January. And then with the request, the amendment request to contribute to surplus, our hope is that we get above that green and stay there. Just some language from the state code. I kind of wish I was a lawyer reading this because it doesn't make a ton of sense. The bottom line is that they do have an amount that they require us to have. The requirement is also that we maintain that amount at all times. So not only is coming back every quarter not fun, it is not in compliance with the department's requirement that we keep that at all times. So our thoughts well, I'll let Christina get into some more numbers and then we'll talk about kind of some thoughts in the future to.
So I just wanted, whoa, that's really loud. I just wanted to reiterate the financial status, and really what we're looking at funding is that Q3 forward through the end of the year so that we can get in compliance with the Department of Insurance and the state regulations that say we need to maintain that reserve and surplus at all times. So that's really the request that we have here today. But in addition to that, we also have some things for you to consider in the future. And again, we'll be coming back and having these conversations, but just kind of wanted to plant the seed and maybe have a little bit of conversation about the direction you guys feel is appropriate moving forward.
Yeah, so again, our hope with the projections that we made for 26 is that we are adequately funding month to month. Because of timing, again, we made those 26 projections in the summer of 25. The historical data that we had wasn't, we still had some of the good months from late 23 and early 24 in that historical data that we use for the projection. So there still is a chance that the 26 funding doesn't adequately maintain the trust balance that we need. And so rather than coming every quarter asking for one-time infusions, our thought is, would it be better to update our projections, maybe quarterly if we see that they're off by a certain margin. And that could mean that we come and say, hey, we don't need to fund as much because we've reached a surplus that's healthy and we can reduce what we're contributing on a month. Or if it's another year like this, we would come and say, hey, based on how things are going, we know that the costs are going to continue to be above what we're funding, and we'd recommend just an ongoing increase in the funding rather than trying to resolve it every quarter with a budget amendment.
That's all we have for you. So I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
no questions, but just for feedback, I'm going to only be supportive of seeing you guys on a quarterly basis for right now. I've had some real
Oh, yeah.
struggles with getting
Mhm.
clear and concise and accurate information until I feel that that's going to be satisfied. I think, unfortunately, I think the funding request is the mechanism that ensures that we're getting these types of conversations right now. So at least for me, that's where I would be sitting tonight.
And to that point, I think I'd like to reiterate, regardless of what our financial status is, a commitment is to bring this back quarterly. I think the idea is to not have to ask for money each quarter. to be able to adequately fund it. But in the event that we do need funding, we want to provide you as many options as possible. And instead of maybe a one-time infusion, it's a mid-year rate change where maybe the city contributes a certain percentage higher for the remainder of the year to keep us out of that deficit. There's just some other options we wanted to explore with you.
Yeah, I think the goal, how do we stay in compliance with the state and meet the council's desire for information?
Correct.
How do we achieve that? I think that's what I'm going to challenge everyone to think about between now and the next time we need to have a conversation. I wish the state would go on record to more clearly define what we know is in their viewpoints based upon the code. But we want to have a good partner in the state. We don't want to have a state partner that doesn't appreciate working with us. So how do we bridge that gap? That's what we need to figure out. So. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item 5, which is the fiscal year 2026 budget amendment, in the amount of $781,110 for employee benefits trust plan. Technically, I don't know if I'm presenting this budget amendment.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keller?
I signed it, and so
Okay.
I'm happy to do that. This covers a lot of what Christine and the team just shared. So, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the fiscal year 2026 budget amendment, amount of $781,110 for employee benefits trust plan.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 5. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh.
Aye.
Little Roberts. Overton.
Aye.
Whitlock.
All ayes, motion carries, and I'm agreed to. Council went into our agenda. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, one more thing. Mr. Sitaway did contact me. When we took up item 1 on the Railswood Trail, there was an agreement, but we didn't approve the agreement.
Wow.
You simply asked for if there was any questions, but we didn't get, so we need to approve agreement with item 1. Just in addition to the one that was approved under item 3.
Okay,
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Whitlock.
rewind the clock and approve agenda item number 1, an agreement on the with trail pathway.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to agree to the addendum to the state and local agreement between the City of Meridian and the Idaho Transportation Board and through the Idaho Transportation Department for the rail with trail pathway. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And the item is agreed to.
Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
move we adjourn our special meeting.
Motion second adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we are adjourned. I thought we did it.
You skipped past it, and I meant to, I get up in the.
Sorry to disappoint. It's not.
Wardle, how are you, sir? Quick one, quick in and out, yeah. Good, you? Happy holidays. What's the celebrate? Five, yeah. 9-year-old and oldest is 18, so he's going home from college tomorrow. It'll be beautiful. You watch that. Last fight today or tomorrow morning and home and. Right, yep. Agencies are raising 2 only children and it kind of works. Yep. Nice to see you. Yep, I'm making a moment. Yep, thank you though.
Council will call this meeting to order. For the record, it's Tuesday, December 16th, 2025 at 6:06 PM. We'll begin tonight's regular city council meeting with roll call attendance. What's going on?
Okay, can you hear? There I am. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Cavanagh,
Here.
Councilwoman Little Roberts, Councilman Overton.
Here.
Councilman Whitlock.
Here.
In here.
Mayor Simmons is here.
Next time is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next up is our community invocation, which tonight will be delivered by Pastor Vinny Hakey with the Valley Life Community Church. If you'd all please join us in the community invocation or take this as a moment of silence and reflection.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, thanks once again for allowing me to be here to pray before the meeting, and Merry Christmas to you all.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. God, I thank you for this evening. I thank you for the city of Meridian and the privilege of being a citizen of it. God, I ask tonight as the council conducts its business and hears from those who will give testimony that you would give them wisdom, discernment. You would allow them to lead in a manner that is consistent with the humility and service that you yourself provided that we celebrate in this Christmas season. We thank you for our fair city. We ask for your providence and grace to be upon it. And we thank you for this time. In Christ's name, amen. God bless you guys tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Next time up is adoption of the agenda.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Cavanagh.
Make a couple of changes. Notably, we're going to vacate items 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 from the department reports. We got those handled during our special meeting. And then, Mr. Mayor, I know we were at least anticipating a larger turnout tonight for some of our public hearings. I know the applicant for number 21 maybe thought that they would maybe be moved later into the agenda. In light of us not having a packed house with public hearings, what I'd like, Mayor, if you're comfortable with this, is we'll keep the rest of these public hearings as published, but maybe provide some flexibility if you're open to it, Mayor, to, if the applicant's not here for number 21, we'll just kick them down a notch. Does that work for you, Mr. Mayor?
That works.
With that, Mr. Mayor, I move that modified agenda be adopted.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as modified. Is there a discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is agreed to as modified. Next up is consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
move we approve the consent agenda for the mayor to sign and the clerk to attest.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the consent agenda is agreed to. There were no items moved from the consent agenda. Mr. Clerk, anything under public forum? Anyone signed up?
Mr. Mayor, nobody signed up.
Okay, then we will go into department reports. First item up is resolution number 25-2558, a resolution establishing the appointment of William Bill Baber to seat 3 of the Meridian Solid Waste Advisory Commission. Council, Chairperson Corey and I sat down, as always, and did our due diligence on the quality of applicants. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. We only had one applicant, but it was a stellar applicant for this. For those that haven't had the opportunity to meet Bill and understand the public service he has provided in his previous communities he's lived in. He's sat in your seats. He's dealt with the issues at that level, different, and he understands that we are in a different place with our contractual process and everything else, but he's willing to roll up his sleeves and provide the service to our communities. And as he said, no job is too small or too dirty to get involved in, and understands the work that he's getting himself into. So he's got a great background. I think that continues to add expertise to our Solid Waste Advisory Commission. And with that, we'd be happy to have him participate in this commission and stand for any questions you may have.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Little Roberts.
Mr. Mayor, I have the privilege of knowing Bill and had a very interesting and thoughtful discussion with him prior. I think he tested my knowledge on how much I knew about our public works. And so if no one else has any discussion, it would be an honor to get to nominate him. And I move that we pass Resolution 25-2558, a resolution establishing the appointment of William Bill Baber to seat 3 of the Meridian Solid Waste Advisory Commission and providing an effective date of today.
I have a motion, and a second, to approve resolution number 25-2558. Is there discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the item is agreed to. Bill, would you like to make any comments this evening?
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this honor, and I'm looking forward to talking trash in Meridian.
Perfect. Thank you, Bill. Okay, with that, we will move on to our public hearings for the evening. First item up is item 19, which is a public hearing for fiscal year 2026 water and sewer rate increase. I will turn this over to Director McVeigh.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. No presentation, but this is just a follow-up. We presented in early November on the enterprise fund, both the health check of the fund and our proposed rate increases. We have since published the increases in the newspaper and also in the utility bills, and we have received no public input or feedback. Just quick recap, slightly different strategy on our rate increases rather than just straight across the board. We're going with the 9-4-3-1 plan that we discussed, meaning 9% on the base of water, 4% on the use of water, 3% increase to the wastewater base, and 1% increase to the wastewater use. Importantly, in aggregate, that equates to about a 2.6% increase, which is $1.66 per month increase to the average Meridian resident. So with this rate increase, we still maintain our position as the lowest rates in the valley, which is not an insignificant feat. And we are essentially looking for your approval this evening to move forward with that proposal with an effective date of January 1st.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, did anyone sign up to provide testimony on this item?
Mr. Mayor, we had nobody sign up.
Okay, is there anybody present in the audience or online who would like to provide comments during this public hearing on this item? If you're online, you can use the raise your hand feature. Seeing no one coming forward or raising their hand, do I have a motion? Councilman Cavanagh.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing on item 19.
Have a motion second to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the public hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
move that we approve, I know we're moving to item 28. I move we approve resolution number 25-2551, resolution adopting the fiscal year 2026 Public Works, Water and Sewer Rates and Fees. Second.
Have a motion second to approve resolution number 25-2551. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh,
Aye.
Little Roberts.
Aye.
Overton. Whitlock.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries, and the item is agreed to. And since we do have our applicant here, we will just go in regular order, where the next item up is item 21, which is a public hearing for Barrow Village, H 2025-0037. We will open this public hearing with staff comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Caleb Hood representing the city tonight on the Borough Village project. I'm going to run through the this outline for this project, and then, yeah, the applicant's here, so they'll give their testimony. But the applications you have before you tonight are a development agreement modification, planned unit development modification, a rezone, and a preliminary plat. And I'll just say, if I get some shorthand, so DA mod is the development agreement modification, and PUD It's kind of the shorthand for the planned unit development application that's associated with these applications tonight. So the site consists of approximately 3 acres of land, currently zoned LO or limited office, located at 1250 East Everest Street. So that's on the south side of Chinden, just west of Locust Grove, as you can see on the slide. In 2015, applications were submitted for a rezone to R15 and a modification to the PUD to change the use and site layout from office to multifamily residential for the development of 34 townhome style units at a gross density of 12.55 units per acre. That application was denied by the council. In 2016, a short plat application was submitted and approved for the subject property and adjacent property to the east, which included the eastern portion of the vacated right-of-way from Jericho Road. These exhibits don't show it very well, but Jericho Road used to connect up with Chinden Boulevard and then was vacated associated with this project. A 35-foot wide landscape buffer was with irrigation, a 10-foot wide multi-use pathway, and a 10-foot tall berm and wall was constructed along Chinden with the subdivision improvements as required by the DA, but was later removed and modified by ITD with the Chinden Road widening project that occurred here a few years ago, a handful of years ago now. ITD had to acquire about 10 additional feet of right-of-way from the subject property, and they installed a 10-foot tall concrete wall for buffering along with decorative rock on the south side of Chinden Boulevard in this area. Utilities were also installed where some of that landscaping once existed, and includes transformers, underground power, and a natural gas line between the back of the sidewalk or multi-use pathway and the wall. The comprehensive plan, future land use map designation, as you can see in the middle exhibit on this slide, is mixed-use community, which basically means it's integrated community serving employment and residential uses that are desired in this designation. The residential components are expected to comprise between 20 and 50% of the overall MUC development area, with gross densities ranging from 6 to 15 units per acre. So a summary of the request, the applicant is proposing to modify the existing development agreement and PUD for Westboro Square to update the use from office to residential. And a conceptual development plan from the 6 office buildings that were approved in 2016 to 18 multifamily residential units and some single-family residential attached style structures on 2 lots with the new development agreement. A variety of community serving uses exist in the overall MUC designation. So going back, you can see that brown basically encompasses the entire roughly quarter to a half mile or so of the frontage along Chinden Boulevard. And there's a mix of uses generally today on those properties that share that MUC designation. There is a rezone that is requested of 3.04 acres from, again, the currently LO zone to the R15 or medium high density residential zoning district. Now, reasons cited in the applicant's narrative support the proposed rezone and change of use include the lack of Collector Street access to Jericho. So again, Jericho previously was due north of here and did intersect Chinden Boulevard. The lack of visibility from the highway. So I mentioned the 10-foot wall that exists now. And they also cited that the property is isolated due to its office zoning and access, again, issues there. I'll let the applicant obviously expand on some of that. There's also a preliminary plat, which is proposed to develop in 1 phase. There are 6 total lots with 3 building lots. And again, there's 1 of those lots is for multifamily and 2 for single family. And then there's 3 common lots that include the access drives, some parking, and a common lot on 2.81 acres of land. So again, the discrepancy between the rezone and that is the right-of-way basically for Chinden Boulevard. But 2.81 acres is the area of the plat. The single-family lots range in size from 4,176 to 4,228 square feet, or the average is about a little over 4,200 square feet. The multifamily lot will contain 9 structures with 18 kind of duplex style lots, as you can see on that right hand exhibit. Those are attached. Technically multifamily because all those are on one lot, but it's really 2 units per building. Consistent. So the density is 6.58 dwelling units per acre. So again, the range anticipated in the MUC designation is 6 to 15, and they're at 6.58. No deviations are proposed to the UDC standards with a modification to the planned unit development. Private usable open space consists of patios for each unit in excess of the 80 square feet minimum requirement, minimum of 4,500 square feet or 0.10 acres of common open space is required for the development. The applicant is providing open space exceeding the standard by more than double the amount. A minimum of 2 amenities are required from 2 separate categories. A sports court and a horseshoe pit is proposed from the recreation category, and a fenced dog park with a waste station is proposed from the quality of life category. A picnic area with shade structure is also proposed from the open space category, again, exceeding the UDC requirements. Off-street parking is proposed in excess of the minimum standard, so 51 spaces are proposed or provided over the required amount, with another 16 spaces provided in an overflow parking lot along the southern boundary of the site for use by guests and residents. A 35-foot wide street buffer, and this kind of goes into what was required with the planned unit development and the development agreement. Chinden Boulevard is an entryway corridor with noise abatement requirements for residential uses adjoining that state highway, US 2026. As previously noted, ITD removed the previously installed buffer wall and irrigation with the road widening project and constructed 10-foot tall concrete wall at the back edge of the 10-foot sidewalk along Chinden, leaving little area for a landscape buffer and no irrigation on the north side of the wall. The applicant did request alternative compliance. I worked with Sonia is actually the lead planner on this, but talked with her about the alternative compliance request and did approve that due to conflicts, again, with those utilities, which prevent the installation of irrigation facilities under the footings of the wall. There's no break in that wall. It's a pretty continuous wall. I know I went pretty quick through the pictures. I think there's a pretty good one. You can see on the lower left, a picture of the existing wall that ITD installed. It kind of comes across a little bit in that picture too, but the elevation, there is some grade changes between the highway and the subject site. So that was also a consideration as that alternative compliance was reviewed and approved. The developer is installing 9 additional trees north of the retaining wall with shrubs, decorative boulders and rock mulch, and 4 additional trees on the south side of the retaining wall. Conceptual building elevations. So there's some of the common open space. I'm sorry, I'm not synced up with my notes and the slides. Here are the conceptual building elevations for the proposed single-story homes. And in summary, the Planning and Zoning Commission heard this project on November 20th and did recommend approval to the council. In favor were Becky McKay from Engineering Solutions, Jack Hariff. In opposition were Drew Robert and Forrest Spencer. Commenting was Tyler Roundtree. Written testimony was received by Melissa Chandler, Lyndon Ray Akbari, Ginny Hostvelt, and John Elliott. Some of the key issues of concern were some of the safety concerns for children and pedestrians with the increase of the density here in residential uses, the increase in traffic. Some concerns about the number of parking stalls proposed and if it was inadequate. Increased traffic volumes on surrounding roads not being designed to handle that, and noise in the quiet neighborhood and incompatibility with surrounding land uses and strain on city services. There's also a request or a note, a conversation about the desire / need for a traffic signal on Chinden. I will want to spend just a second now, I think, on that. So that the first exhibit here, you can see basically the mid-mile between Locust Grove and Meridian. That is the plan for access on Chinden, is to basically at the mid-mile put in signals. The warrant is not currently met for that, for a signal. Eventually, I'm hopeful that someday we can funnel traffic to what's called Saguaro Drive, and that will be signalized someday, but right now there isn't enough volume to warrant that signal today, but that was something that was requested and again, discussed during the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, so. There's also some discussion by the commission about the installation of no parking signs along the entry drive to reduce that congestion. Some additional extra parking with the development, and encouraging the applicant to continue to work with the abutting Hightower HOA to improve the strip of land that is vacated right away on their property, what was Jericho, for a larger shared common area between the two developments. So the commission did in fact include a new condition requiring no parking signs to be installed along the common drive entry, shared with the multifamily development to the east. So let me get there again so you can kind of see what that looks like. Aside from that, there's no known additional issues to note. And I did just check and I didn't see any additional written testimony since the hearing in November. So with that, staff will stand for any questions, clarifications you may have.
Thank you, Caleb. Council, any questions for staff?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Cavanagh.
Caleb, just one quick one. In that MUC area, what percentage is residential already?
So Mr. Mayor, Councilman Cavanagh, I don't have that right in front of me. It may be in the staff report somewhere. I could look that up. I will, if you want to look at the zoning map, rough proportionate of the pink is going to be commercial.
Okay.
And then the orange is a higher density residential. And then there are actually two county properties there. The Zamzos and the Friendship Celebration Church are the two white ones that are further to the west. So it's largely non-residential. The church is actually zoned. So Valley Life Church, which is on the corner of Locust Grove and Chinden, shows up as two tones of yellow. But that's actually a church, and the darker shade of yellow is undeveloped land, but that is technically zoned residential. If you want percentages, I can try to find that, but
Mr. Mayor, Caleb, it's
Let's
not the
cover.
end of the world. It looks like it's very heavy residential, but you're saying that it's not.
there are certainly residential uses there. The zoning is misleading, I guess, is what I would say, because the vast majority of the yellow that you see that would overlap with the MUC. So as you can see kind of on the exhibit in the middle, which is our future land use map, right? The church is called out in that civic green color,
Yep.
but their zoning is yellow. So they have to have a zone. We don't have a church zone, so they have a residential zone. So kind of looking at those in combination, there certainly is some residential. I think the future land use map shows the existing platting patterns or parcel lines. And you can see at the mid-mile, there are certainly some residential there. Along the frontage of Chinden, though, you do have some commercial uses as well.
Okay, thank you.
Council, any additional questions for staff? Okay, would the applicant like to come forward?
Caleb, can you key that up? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Becky McKay, Engineering Solutions, business address 1029 North Rosario and Meridian. I'm here representing Challenger Development on this particular project. We're requesting a rezone of 3.04 acres from LO Limited Office to R15 Medium Density Residential. We have before you a preliminary plat, which is 2.81 acres with 2 single-family homes, 9 duets, and common drive and overflow parking in 1 lot.
I think the mic went out on the,
Did it go out? Is it?
okay.
Oh. There we go.
New mics.
I'm doing it wrong.
It keeps going out on there.
Yeah, the green light's not,
I don't think.
The green light's on here.
yeah, it's
There's
not
a
on
little light
the,
on the mic.
Got it towards me. Am I doing it wrong?
no, I think that, yeah, we may need to go to the other mic.
How's this one? Oh,
That one's
there we
fine,
go.
yeah.
So here's a vicinity map of the subject property as you can see, it's located just south of Chinden Boulevard, Highway 2026, and then west of Locust Grove. You have Saguaro that comes in off of Chinden, and then there's interconnectivity that goes out to Commander. This is an aerial map, as you can see, of the subject property. You can see here, the parking lot is all developed. The common drive is located here. We have Hightower subdivision located just to the west of us. And then this was a portion of the Westboro subdivision, which was an R15 multifamily. To kind of give you a history of this property, because it's kind of lengthy. In 2003, it was approved as a non-farm development under Ada County as Westboro subdivision. So they had set aside land, and then they had some 1 acre lots along Jericho Drive. In 2005, they came as a mixed use development for the set aside ground, and they were proposing 40 multifamily dwelling units and 6 office lots. And in 2007, it finally got annexed, zoned, so LO and R15. They installed the infrastructure in 2007. Then in 2008, the recession hit. This particular project went into foreclosure. In 2008, ITD and ACHD decided that they wanted to eliminate Jericho Road or Jericho Street and its approach to Chinden Boulevard, which was intended to be a mid-mile collector, which when this project was planned, it made sense that we would have an office component and then a multifamily component to the east, because you'd have obviously visibility from 2026 and access off a collector. And so ITD and ACHD came in and said, we're eliminating this approach. We're vacating Jericho Street. Then in 2015, the applicant came back in and submitted application for 34 townhomes. These townhomes were 2-story, had quite a bit of bulk, had a density of 12.55 dwelling units per acre. And the council at that time said, you know, we don't think that there's an overwhelming need to rezone this from LO to R15 based on your density, based on the bulk of the townhomes, and they denied it. So technically, this property has sat vacant for 17 years, or since it was, the improvements went in 17 years ago. This was the original plan that came in. They had the multifamily to the east and then the office buildings. And like I said, it made sense with Jericho as a collector, visibility from Chinden. And then once Jericho was vacated, then these office lots have sat vacant for all this time. There was a neighborhood center that was designated on this property that has since been removed when Jericho was vacated. The property's technically mixed-use community, and that allows densities between 6 and 15 dwelling units per acre. What I'm bringing forth before you tonight is 7.12 dwelling units per acre. All of my buildings are single story. I don't have any dwelling units that are more than 2. And I did meet with the adjoining neighbors south of me, the Liebermans. I met with them twice because they have an estate lot that is located right here on our south boundary. So they're like a 1 acre lot. Their garage, their tennis court is adjacent to me. And so I took them like a townhouse design and they said, no, 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 I don't like that. We don't want anybody, you know, the 2 stories out. So then I adjusted the site plan and those are 2 single-family lots, single story. And then I transition into the duets. Those are only 2 units that are attached. They're 1 bedroom, 1 bath. This thing is, whoops. This is the preliminary plat that's before you. So I have 2 single-family lots, 1 what they call a multifamily lot. But even though the definition under your code, a multifamily is 3 dwelling units or more. So I don't really even meet the multifamily. And so when this was transmitted, a lot of people were concerned, oh, they're doing apartments or multifamily, you know, multifamily always brings up, you know, a negative response, but really these are duets. And so my intent was, let's create something for seniors. 1 bedroom, 1 bath. They're duets. And we already have a parking lot. We only have to construct 16 carports. And we can deal with the parking issue that has been a headache on this property. So to kind of give you an insight of what's happened out here is that multifamily portion, they have inadequate parking. So they were parking in our parking lots. They had junk cars, they had RVs, they had boats. The city notified my client and said, you need to sign it, private property, no parking. This is becoming a real nuisance. So then when we did that, then everybody started parking on Jericho and Everest, which then upset the other residents. So my suggestion here is we're going to provide overflow parking for that existing development. And so I'll kind of get to that. As far as our amenities, we have open space with horseshoe pits. We have pocket park with a picnic shelter and trees. We have a fenced dog park with benches and waste station. We have 78 parking spaces in this existing. Our requirement is 36. So we're so overparked, and some of the letters that came in said, oh, you know, this can't be parked. Well, we're so overparked, it's crazy. We're going to allow that existing multifamily development to use the southern parking lot, which is 16 spaces, for their overflow. We'll sign it. Hey, park here, don't park on the street. This is kind of a landscape plan. I worked with staff. We did ask for an alternative compliance. This development did the 35-foot buffer on Chinden. They did the fencing, the berming, and ITD came in and they wiped it out. And they put a 10-foot wall up, a 3-foot retaining wall on our side, and then they put decorative gravel. So under the code, I'm supposed to landscape to Chinden, and I'm like, I can't. They've got gas lines, they got power lines, they've got junction boxes. They cut my irrigation lines. I can't even get irrigation to it. Staff agreed and said, you know, come in with an alternative compliance. So this particular landscape plan does have additional trees, additional landscaping that compensates for that. My other concern was I don't have any pedestrian pathway to Chinden. So how is a landscape company even going to maintain my 339 feet of frontage on Chinden? It appears to be quite the hazard. So this is the single family dwelling. We have 2 of them. They'll be on separate lots. They will adjoin the Liebermans. This is the duet, we call it. So it has 2 units. These are 722 square feet. Our intent is they will be for seniors, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. There's a great need out in our community, and there've been many articles about senior rental housing that is affordable. So when I met with your staff, I said, hey, I'm trying to come up with the least impact from a traffic perspective, the least density, but something that's affordable that meets a niche in the Meridian community. And I think this is perfect. And I said, if you got a better idea, I'm all ears. And the staff said, you know what? I think you hit on something. This is good. This is the 10-foot wall. This is over on the high tower side. And you can see the wall, and that's their fence. This shows you what ITD did. And in my conversations with your staff, I said, well, if you wanted landscaping along Chinden, why didn't you communicate that to ITD? And they said they never asked. So they put in this decorative gravel, this 10-foot wall, and the 10-foot pathway. So that's what we have to deal with. This is internally within my project. So as you can see, I'm low. That's the parking lot. You can see the curb. Then they have a little 3-foot retaining wall, and then we have the 10-foot wall. So what we're trying to do, I guess, basically is retrofit a project. And in doing so, it is my desire to make a product that can be rented affordably, because I'm retrofitting something where the improvements are already in. The parking lot's in, the islands, the trees. We just have to add the amenities and then work with Public Works for new services to these individual buildings. Like I indicated, for 17 years, this property has been underutilized, undertaxed, and sitting there vacant. And some of the neighbors that I met with, they put it in writing. There are kids that have partied out here. We saw drug deals. There are people dumping couches. So anytime we have a vacant property, it becomes an attractive nuisance. So and what I told the neighbors, I said, once I get residents in here, that solves the problem. Then it's not vacant, undertaxed. If you look at the lots that are to the west of me, these are 3,200 square feet. These are 4 units attached, 3 units attached. There are 15. I'm requesting R15. I don't need the R15, but it is required in order to have these duets on one lot. We have water, we have sewer. We're already in your service area as far as emergency services. One of the questions that came up, the Plan Zoning Commission, which I want to mention, recommended a unanimous approval. We had 22,000 square feet of office. That's 398 vehicle trips per day. This, what I show you now, is 140 vehicle trips per day. So that's a 64% reduction in traffic. And I asked the council to think about what is the least impact on this neighborhood and what is the best interest of the city and the community. And this is what we came up with. And I feel it's a good option. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Council, any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Little Roberts.
Mr. Mayor, Becky, thank you. Could you show me where Jericho or what's left of Jericho is and what their pathway to Chinden is since Jericho's closed?
As far as you mean vehicular access?
Yes.
Okay. So Jericho Street is right here. And it was constructed all the way to Chinden. They vacated this portion of it where it intersected with Chinden. So then my project connects to what they call Everest and Saguaro. And then there's interconnectivity that comes down to Commander and goes out to Locust Grove.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Councilman Whitlock.
Becky, just a couple of quick questions. So all the duets are rental as well as the two single-family homes would be rentals?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Whitlock, the two single-family homes will be on individual lots, so they could be sold. Only the duets would be rentals. And like I said, we're targeting seniors, 1 bedroom, 1 bath.
Thank you. Follow up.
Councilman Whitlock.
Becky, in terms of if you might go back to the slide you were on before this, you said that 16 parking, that's a good slide. Where would the 16 parking spaces be? The southeast corner?
Yes, sir. So there is this, a little cursor. The two single-family dwellings would be here. This parking lot has 16 spaces. We are going to sign it that it is overflow parking for these residents here to stop them from parking on Everest and Jericho. All of our parking for the duets will be in this parking lot. And I only need 36 spaces. That's 2 spaces per dwelling unit for 1 bedroom, 1 bath.
Thank you.
And then we're going to sign the entrance roadway as no parking.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Overton.
And Becky, this maybe for staff as well, because we see this quite often where we see a density below what would normally be considered an R8, but we see it classified as an R15 or something higher. And many times it has to do with the fact that because of the restrictions placed on an R8, you can't build the type of lot sizes or the type of product that you wish to build. So could you go into that a little further, maybe from staff as well, about why this needed to be this particular designation, considering the densities under 8?
Yep. Mr. Mayor, Councilman Overton, if you don't mind, I'll go first and then the applicant can. So technically, I think the 2 southern single-family lots could be rezoned probably to R8 and be fine. Becky sort of said it, but she does need the rezone to R15 because our schedule of use control does not allow multifamily. And these technically, again, even though they're duet style, they're still on 1 lot with 18 units on 1 lot. That is multifamily, multiple dwellings on 1 property. So it's not going to live that way necessarily, but technically there's 1 multifamily lot with 18 units. So the R15 is the first zone, if you will, in our R2, R4, R8, R15 that actually allows multifamily. So technically, for our definitions in our code, this is a multifamily lot project with 2 single-family lots. So hopefully that clarifies.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I just want to mention that they're all single story. There are no 2-story within this development. So, and 2 units apiece, there's no bulk, there's no height. And that would be consistent with what's constructed in Hightower. They're single story in 4 units attached and 3 units attached, and I'm 2.
Council, additional questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have anyone set up on this item?
Mr. Mayor, we do. David Lieberman.
Good evening. You state your name and address for the record, and you'll be recognized for 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm David Lieberman, and I have the house south of this subdivision. So I'm not sure where a lot of this information has come from, but when I moved in there around 2005, we were told Jericho was closing. Jericho's been closed. There was never any thought that it wasn't going to be. So, I mean, they keep on making it sound like they thought Jericho was going to go through, and the city council said that was never intended to. The lights were supposed to go in at that Saguaro Hills. Everybody's been waiting, but everything gets done a little bit behind. But that's the nature of it. You do it after you need it, not before, because bad things happen. You do that. Get roads to nowhere. But I didn't see any garages on this. Maybe I missed the picture, but if they're just basically split apartments without the garages. And the people to the left, you're not gonna purchase them without garages. The people to the left at the townhomes, they all have garages. We've got kind of a great community out there, and we've had a lot of problems. The drug deals happened when they did not have that apartment going. They left it. They build, I don't know, enough to keep the permit active, I guess. I know somebody explained it to me before. So they'd go and add a piece of concrete, leave for 3 or 4 months, come back, add something else. And there were drug deals, everything else going on, but the apartments were also empty and there were places to hide back there. That's cleared up. I'm the one who's been mowing their lawns. Their water is sporadic when they turn it on. The owners there, we've tried to talk to them before. It's just, this was the intent from day one, is that's what they wanted. We heard it back in 2005, I think. And it's changed hands with the same people. Some of my neighbors, they came in, I think 2015 with the receipts on that. I thought they were all going to be here, but this has kept moving out. I was surprised I was the one here. And so I'm glad that they aren't trying to put a 2-story house hanging over the side, because we're all 1 story on the other side. But right now, I'm not sure how it's going to all turn out. But without the garages, carports, they are definitely 100% rentals. And I don't know if legally they can, unless the apartment building, they go to seniors, it's just going to go to whoever. Guess my time is up, but yeah, there's no bus traffic there. So,
Council, any questions? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that was everyone who signed up.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to provide testimony on this item? If you'd like to come forward at this time to do so. And if you're online, you can use your raise your hand feature. Oh, that was for people online. You're good. Just say your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Craig Telford. I live at 1330 East Commander Street. I'm the HOA vice president right now for the reserve subdivision. So, of course, I don't think anybody here would be excited if you said we're going to add traffic to your neighborhood, right? So, we're not excited about that, but that's kind of the way it happens. And I'm glad that they've gone to single story. I'm glad the parking has been a problem. She addressed that. I'm glad about that. I just feel like there's a little bit of a snow job with it. Well, it's intended for seniors. Is it going to be 55 and over? And that's how they're going to do it? Or are we going to have, we've got neighbors that everybody's got a place to live. I'm not saying people don't get a place to live, but if we get rentals coming in, we get young kids and they have to have a roommate to be able to afford rent. And so now we've got, multiple young people living in this, it's a little hard stomach. So I appreciate the things they've done, but I'm just a little curious about the 55 and over, or the seniors, targeted at seniors, but is it going to be limited to that? So that's a question that I would have. So other than that, I appreciate what they've done, but certainly not excited about the added traffic. So anyway, that's it.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
quick follow-up.
Okay.
As a council, as a planning staff, there's nothing that we're doing or putting in place that would require them to only rent those properties to people that were 55 and older.
Right.
That would
Okay.
totally be on the applicant and the developer on their word that they were going to do that.
Okay.
But knowing that going forward, how did you want to see that developed?
Well, I don't really have a problem with that. I just say we're targeting 55 and over, but it's not going to go there. You know, the existing property that's there, they built garages for, but they built them so small, you can't put a car in it. So that's when they have a parking problem. Is they already created buildings that you can't park a car in. And so now what was supposed to be parking wasn't parking. And now we got all the people out on the street. So,
I guess what I'm trying to get from you is, are you okay with the size of this development? The fact that it's all single story, the number of units?
I mean, yeah, I don't think it's a horrible plan, but certainly better than two-story units. It could be a lot worse. And I appreciate the concessions that they've made. We do have a concern about parking because you can only get in through Commander Street, or about traffic. You can only get in through Commander Street, or you can only get in off Chinden on Saguaro. So we've already got quite a bit of traffic. I'm sure it's not at maximum density, but I don't think anybody here would love to have a maximum density traffic in front of their homes either. So there is concern about traffic through there. There's just a very limited access in and out of there. And I'm not sure that the parking problem is going to be resolved with that density the way it is, considering the fact that, you know, they have parking, but they didn't make it big enough to park in. So those are our concerns.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Tyler Roundtree, 1098 East Passaconna, live just not too far south of this development. So first and foremost, I think staff's done a really good job trying to figure something out. I'm not going to waste my 3 minutes to give you the history. If you want it, I'd be more than happy to share it to you at the end. I don't see it the same way, but there's definitely history there. Moving forward out of the P&Z meeting, they came with the recommend of signage for no parking. The applicant was, I'll do whatever you want. I think the reality of it is the applicants told us what happens when you sign it. So they had a lot to park in. It was a disaster. They signed that lot, no parking, and the people moved to the street. So to the applicant's credit, they're trying to provide more parking. If you put the signs that there's no parking on the street, they're now going to be parking in front of the neighbor's house that just testified, because that's where the overflow goes right now. So my thought with that, and sitting in the P&Z meeting, when I believe it was Commissioner Lorcher? She had the epiphany of working and owning her own tow company. You sign it, and we're going to build affordable housing, and we're going to charge people $300 to tow their cars, because that makes sense. Let these people fix their own problem. Parking is going to be a problem, hands down. You'll have 2 HOAs in there. Let those HOAs figure that out. Again, to the applicant's credit, she was like, I will do whatever you want to do. But to me, it's completely counterintuitive. She's proven to you it won't work. She has plenty of spaces. Let them figure it out. Overall, I think that the density with this, it works. Is it what we signed up for in 2007? No, but here we are. So again, I don't want to take anything from what staff's done. Certainly the applicant has done things. But at the end of the day, don't put signs up, because then we're going to be back in here as neighbors asking you to put signs up on our public streets so we don't have the overflow parking. Let them figure it out. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Little Roberts.
Mr. Mayor, Tyler, I will ask the question, what is the history that you think would be pertinent for us to know?
I think the history is a little, it's going to be one-sided because it's coming from me, first and foremost. I agree. I moved into my house in 07. Was very clear to me at that time that the collector of Jericho was going bye-bye. It did go through the 08 recession. It was traded amongst the development community through bankruptcy. You know, it was a Jewett property to begin with. It's moved around, it's changed hands. To the applicant's credit, my hesitation with this is bait and switch, right? We don't have a real good track record going on from 17 years of this property. And she assured everybody on the dais, it's not a bait and switch. So I'm hoping now that we can go forward with this, but ultimately we've been back and forth. To the people who live in the townhomes that are existing, to their credit, when ITD came in and wanted to develop Shinden, they parked all of their equipment and all of their construction overflow on this lot. So every morning you can ask them 6:30, you know what they woke to? Beep, 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 beep. ITD built a ramp to come from Shinden up over the wall and into that area for 18 months. The dust, everything. So did they build a wall? If I don't own that property, I would have wanted to have said, why are you building a wall? I have to put office space in here. So how that all went down, I don't know. But here we are. So again, I don't want to take anything away from what's done, but I don't necessarily agree with how we got to where we are today.
Thank you.
Council, any additional questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that'd like to provide testimony on this item? All right, the applicant will come close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Becky McKay. So I did Jericho subdivision. That was 2007. And Mr. Roundtree testified against that subdivision. At that time, Jericho was supposed to be a collector. And all of a sudden, after that, we found out, no, it's going to be discontinued. So that obviously threw a monkey wrench in everybody's plans. This particular project, it's LO. You can't see it from Chinden. You can't get direct access from Chinden. You don't even know it's there. And if it was marketable over these past 17 years, I would think that somebody would have bought an office lot and built something, but it's just not happening. And it's not going to happen because it can't be seen. It can't be easily accessed for office. So what we have to do based on ITD and ACHD's decisions to discontinue Jericho and the city of Meridian's decision to move the neighborhood center further west, which we have a lot of commercial to the west, churches, daycares, etc. We're left with the property underutilized, undertaxed, and sitting there vacant with all the city services. Your comprehensive plan says we need to make a priority of infill parcels that have all of their utilities, access, and the cost to the public for service is far less if all of those things exist. And that's what we have here. So it's my job to look at this property and find something that is palatable to the neighbors. And I met with Mr. Lieberman and his wife on 2 occasions. The 2 single-family dwellings that will adjoin them do have garages. They are on separate lots. They are single story. And as far as the parking, everyone's like, well, you just can't solve this parking issue. And I say, why not? I need 36 spaces for my 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 722 square foot duets. And I have 78 spaces. So I got spaces running out my ears. We're going to sign those 16 spaces for the property to the east, which I agree, they built garages, but according to the input I've received is the garages are so tiny, you can't even get a little car in them, and people just put their stuff in them, and then there's just not enough parking. And I've counted their parking spaces, I've counted their garages. So to designate overflow parking areas specific to them is obviously going to help the parking issue on the local streets. I don't think that it's more convenient for somebody to park down Jericho or park down Everest when we've got a signage, this is overflow parking for this development that is at this point in time unrelated to us. That's been sold. We can do an easement, we can do whatever. There's parking there. We'll have overflow parking. We only need 36 spaces. I got parking running out my ears. I don't know what to do with it. And we even talked about converting some of it to like non-parking area, but the best option was obviously to make it available so that we can solve the parking problem. This property has been a nuisance. There's couches, there were junk RVs, there was all kinds of stuff. And as soon as the city enforcement officer told my client, you sign it, this is private property, no parking, to get rid of all of these nuisances, that's what pushed that development to the east, the 4-unit, 3-unit, to start parking on the public street. I'm trying to solve that. I'm trying to fix a situation. I'm trying to reduce the trips and have the lowest impact that I can come up with. And this is it. I can't think of anything else. When you look at Hightower, as far as their density, I mean, they've got density consistent adjacent to me, and they're single story, they're 4-unit, 3 units. The R15 that's east of me, they're higher density. I'm just trying to find a logical, low impact use. And the niche right now is we have a lot of seniors that need housing on a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, affordable unit. And if I can provide that, because I have existing parking, I have existing services, I just have to put in some amenities, then I think I'm doing a good thing for the community of Meridian. And I ask that you support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, additional comments, questions for the applicant?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Overton.
Becky, when you're in front of planning and zoning, there was no initial request for no parking signs on the street. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Overton, the Planning and Zoning Commission did want me just to sign the common drive or private drive that comes into our development as no parking. Because I think it's 28 feet in width. And they said, can you sign that as no parking and then put signage up? This is the overflow parking. To get people, that was a suggestion of the Plan Zoning Commission.
Although
Councilman Overton.
I don't think anybody's here from that neighboring development that you're talking about having an agreement with. And of course, that would be an agreement that we wouldn't partake in. That would be
It would be a private agreement.
private
Yes.
agreement just between the two of you.
Yes, we would give them a parking easement.
Have you already had those discussions with them, or is this your plan?
This is my plan to put up the signage and basically notify them that stop parking on the public streets, Everton, Jericho. You can now park in this parking lot, which has previously been signed private property, no parking, based on Meridian Enforcement Division.
One more follow-up.
Councilman Overton.
And roadway widths, I can never remember exactly how wide they have to be to have no parking on both sides. But I know that if it's not up to the ACHD street width that they're used to, at least you could be looking at no parking on just one side of the street. Was there any discussion on just having no parking on one side? Because you've heard from the neighbors that if you sign that as no parking, their concerns, you're going to have parking in front of their residences.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Overton, typically the rule of thumb is if it's 29 feet, they allow parking on one side. And that private drive, I believe, is 28 feet. And then after it gets past the single family dwellings, I think it transitions to 24. So that was the concern of one of the commission members, that because of the private drive width, they didn't want to see people parking. But I don't see the advantage of them. I mean, they're going to be just as close parking in the overflow parking lot we're providing as they would be on the private drive. So I think, based on signage and communication to that development, their management company, that, hey, we're providing overflow parking, so please stop parking on the public streets.
Mr. Mayor, just
Councilman Overton.
kind of push this back on staff a little bit. Staff, I know when this project came forward that there was no requirement in the staff report for no parking signs on this street. And the fact that there wasn't, was that because we believed in the application that this provided enough parking to adequately take care of the overflow from the development to the east?
So, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Overton, you're asking me to speculate a little bit on a premise that maybe, I'm not sure what we were thinking. I will, just back to your comment though, and I think Becky also alluded to it. I mean, 29 is typically the width where you can have parking on one side, but not both. We're looking at a fire lane being restricted to allow parking on both sides. I'm not sure why there's not a condition, because that width hasn't changed to access the existing multifamily in there. There should have been a condition in there that says at least you're restricting it on one side, if not both already, quite frankly, because that hasn't changed. That standard hasn't changed in 25 years that I am aware of anyways. So I haven't verified there wasn't a condition. There may have been a condition. There may have even been signs up at one time. I don't actually know. So I'm sorry. I can do some research and see if I can find a condition from over the last 17 years that did say restrict the parking at least on one side. And I don't know, we got the deputy chief here. Maybe he can chime in. That won't help with the history of signing it for no parking or not, but maybe going forward, should it be signed to restrict it on one side or the other? But I'll see what I can find.
Mr. Mayor. I'd love to get all of city staff involved on this question. Trust me. But the goal here is really to find out whether this was necessary to have no parking on both sides, where we have the potential for now pushing traffic around the corner in front of the residential. And we're trying to make the least impact on your neighbors as possible.
Yes, sir.
So if we were okay with parking, no parking on one side of, I think, is that Everest?
No, sir, that would be on the private drive.
Private.
The neighbors are concerned about the parking on Everest and Jericho because the school bus picks up the kids at that intersection. And then there are cars parked along there. There are also concerns that I guess there were a couple incidents where some cars were sideswiped. And so the issue is them parking on the public street, not necessarily parking on the private drive. So I think what the commission wanted to do is let's force them to park in the parking lots that you are providing for their overflow, get them off the public street, but yet not encumber the private drive because it's only 28 feet wide. And this was a Jim Jewett project that did go back to the bank. Then my client purchased it. And it was kind of that R15 portion was horribly underparked.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Hood.
I will just add, with the layout that Ms. McKay is proposing for the 2 single-family homes, the driveways there will actually practically prohibit parking there anyways, because you got curb cuts or driveways for
Correct.
those 2 homes. You might be able to sneak one in between, but really you're effectively preventing, not prohibiting, but preventing parking from happening on the south side anyways, again, just because you have
That's true.
driveways
Caleb,
going to
good
those
point.
homes.
Because you have the homes there. Right, so that will restrict. Yeah, people can't.
The
park
driveway
on the south.
apron essentially takes up your curb frontage, so.
Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
Becky, you talked a lot about age targeting. How do you do that?
With the 1 bedroom, 1 bath and the size of the unit, it's obviously not conducive to families.
Sure.
Or young people, you know, those people, like there might be, 4 kids getting a 2-bedroom. So my intent is my amenities are geared towards seniors with the horseshoe pit, the little dog park, the little gazebo. And so we're trying to make this appealing. And in my conversations with Mr. Barton, he said, we do see a need where seniors want a smaller community. They don't want to be mixed in with college kids and, families of 3 or 4 kids. So that's our marketing.
Yeah.
And then the affordability.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I can, Becky, and I guess that's the part I'm concerned with is let's say you fill 90% of these units with people in their mid to late 50s, early 60s, and a 30-something-year-old who comes to work at HP lives here. And he runs a different schedule because he works graveyards. And so he's up later at night. He's disturbing these neighbors. And all these neighbors think like, whoa, we moved into a place for kind of like our tribe, and now we've got this outsider. And so I worry that you're targeting a certain demographic, but you're not prohibiting anybody from living there, that you create a little bit of a challenge for the residents that you're hoping to attract, as well as I worry if it doesn't accurately communicate who could actually live there. And so your client has done a lot of work in the residential space. Why not deed restrict these to 55 and older, solve the concern of the neighbors, ensure that the demographic that you're hoping to live there are the only ones who can? You've got a unique product. So why not just close the loop and really build something that's catered to the audience that you say that you want to target to live there?
My understanding is legally, there are issues with saying you got to be 55 or older to live there in the state of Idaho. However, you can market a development targeting, this is a 55 and older community, and our amenities are this, that, and so forth. I mean, young people typically they want to live where the action is. They want to be over by the village so they can go to dinner and
Well, Mr.
pop
Mayor.
over. I mean, this,
Becky,
Councilman Cavanagh.
if you're building something that's affordable, you've got people who are looking for any housing that they can afford. And so I hear you, given the option, all things considered, they would want to live near the village. If they can't afford that, and this is an option, they would. And as I understand, there are exemptions that would allow this to be a deed restricted. Again, 80% of the residents have to be over 55, 100% have to be 62.
Yes, sir.
So there are options, and I guess it's hard for me when I hear somebody say, this is what we want to do, and there's a mechanism to go do that, and you're not choosing to. Like that's curious to me. And so that's the piece that I'm trying to figure out.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Kavanagh, we only have 18 units.
Yeah,
Not 180.
sure.
So I think this is manageable. And obviously, when Mr. Barton's rental management team takes applications, I mean, they do have a say in who qualifies and who doesn't.
Yeah.
But this is our target. This, I mean, it's perfect. This is perfect for it.
And Mr. Mayor, and
Councilman
Becky,
Cavan.
I believe you, and I actually think this is a unique product that will meet a need. I was part of the council that denied this application, 10 years ago, and it was
Yes,
not
sir.
a good application. This is vastly superior with a unique product type. For me, it's always interesting when anytime we get somebody who says, this is who we want to attract, and there's a mechanism to ensure that's the customer base you get, and that's just not being pursued. And so I was curious as to the why. So I appreciate your explanation. It's not going to impact my vote tonight. I was trying to understand what the reluctancy was, and to ensuring that a 55 and older or a 65 and older community really is existing, which is what you've said this product is designed for.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Kavanagh, that is our intent. And I don't know if I can legally say there will not be a person that is 55 and older here, because I don't control that portion, and say they got to have somebody that's 54. They're divorced. It's a woman. She just wants a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. She doesn't want to have to take care of a yard, but she has a dog.
Sure.
So,
No, I hear you.
I mean, we do the best we can with what we have to work with. But my understanding is legally, we can't impose that, but that is our intent, and they do have the ability to market it. So I think, with the 1-bedroom, 1-bath and the size of the unit, it lends itself to a senior, single story.
Council, any additional questions, comments?
Mayor,
Councilman Bullock.
out of curiosity as well, that Caleb has the Google Maps called up, and I'm curious about, again, the parking. Seems to me if you're putting 2 single-family homes there on the west side, it looks like all concrete on the east side. Is there a reason why you wouldn't put 1 or 2 more homes on that east side and sell that property and not have to deal with the other neighborhoods' parking problems? Just curious.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Whitlock, that's a good question. These are the 16 spaces that we want these residents to utilize as the overflow parking. It's close to them. It will keep them from parking down Jericho, keep them from parking down Everest. And it just makes sense that we provide that parking easement for these people. And like I said, we still have well over what we need. We only need 36 spaces up here, and we have well over that. So even if some of that overflow were to come into this parking lot, I think the whole issue is to solve the parking problem. That has been a thorn in all of these residents' side for many, many years. And if you look at Google Maps, you can see that there are cars parked along Jericho, parked down Everest. So if I can solve that, then I am doing my job to rectify a wrong that's been done many years ago, but still create a neighborhood that's sustainable.
Although
Councilman Whitlock.
just looking to the west, it looks like the threeplex and the fourplex all have garage parking.
They do.
To the east, it looks like those have some garage parking that you can't fit a small car in. What
Right.
is your parking all surface lot, or will there be carports, or have you considered something like the high tower to allow for garage parking?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Whitlock, we will install, we have to install 16 covered spaces. And then we will have 16 open spaces. There are sewer and water easements that run through this parking lot. So that is dictating where I can put my carports because I can't have a carport over your sewer and water easements. And that is prohibiting me from building garages. And to make this affordable, if I have to tear out all the utilities and start over again, then that loses the affordability. And that's what we're trying to achieve here.
Thank you. Council, any additional questions, comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
there are no more public comments. I move we close the public hearing.
I have a motion second to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the public hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to kick off comments before we move forward.
Councilman Overton.
I think you're taking a very tough chunk of land and trying to develop it. I think that's unanimous amongst everybody. I struggle. I mean, there are some really good examples in this city of senior homes that are totally designed for seniors. It seems like the biggest struggle I'm going to have is I've got two aging parents. Well, shoot, I'm over 55, but let's be real. I got aging parents and there's no way in the world they're going to park in a carport that far away from where they enter their duplex. So I struggle with the implementation of seeing this marketing successfully to seniors. I think there's a lot of ways to do it. I think because you're really trying to fit a square peg into a round hole and make this lot work the way it's already laid out, that's going to be a really tall order. I think you can solve the parking issues with an agreement, but we don't have those folks here to even know whether they're going to accept an agreement or if they'll be open to it. I'm not too excited about the requirement from the commission to put no parking on the access road, as that could push more traffic out onto the public streets. And I would be in favor, to move forward with this project, of striking that no parking request that came out of the P&Z hearings. I will be in favor of approving this with that action. Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
no one wants to talk with me. So with that said, after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I'd like to move that we approve file number H 2025-0037 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of December 16th, 2025, with the following modification: that we go back and strike the request to have no parking on the access road leading through this development.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item H 2025-0037. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh.
Aye.
Little Roberts.
Aye.
Overton.
Aye.
Whitlock.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries. The item is agreed to. Have a good evening. With that, we'll move on to item 22, which is public hearing for Apex Cadence H 2024-0061. We will open this public hearing with staff comments.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, there is our PowerPoint backup. So the applications before you for the Apex Cadence project are development agreement modification, or again, I may say DA, that's development agreement, DA mod or DA modification, annexation, and here's one you don't see very often, but they're asking actually a de-annexation is one of the applications they've submitted. I'll get into that in a little bit more. A rezone, a preliminary plat, and again, a planned unit development, or I may slip into the shorthand PUD, planned unit development. So the site consists of 51.5 acres of land, currently zoned R8, located at 6575 South Locust Grove Road. It's south of Lake Hazel on the west side of South Locust Grove. This property was one of those that we annexed back in 2015 and assigned to placeholder zoning. Essentially, we don't have placeholder zoning per se, but we did zone it R4 with the understanding it would likely be rezoned in the future, consistent with the comprehensive plan. The DA does in fact require a modification to the agreement prior to development of the MUC designated areas to include a conceptual development plan that demonstrates consistency with the general guidelines for mixed-use developments and specifically the MUC designation. So again, we got another MUC designation here. The DA or development agreement was amended in 2020 and the property was rezoned to R8, but a development plan was not submitted at that time for this portion of the property. And I should say, I'm going to pause real quick and just say, again, I'm covering this project, so I'm going to be looking at my notes more than anything. So I'm familiar with this project, but I'm not as intimately familiar as the applicant and others. So if you need to grab my attention or whatever, I'm largely going to just read my talking points. So again, the comprehensive plan, future land use map designation is medium density residential for about 40 acres and MUC for roughly 10 or 11 acres. So mixed use community for about 11 and medium density residential for approximately 40. The applicant requests a modification to the existing development agreement to include a conceptual development plan for the subject property. The new DA pertains only to the subject property and not the larger Apex development as a whole. So the proposed concept plan depicts a mix of single-family residential detached and attached homes on the portion of the site proposed to be included in the preliminary plat, and future collector streets and future land use map designations on the property to the north that is outside the boundary of the plat. The medium density residential designation calls for a gross density of 3 to 8 dwelling units per acre in our comp plan, and the proposed density is 4.1 units per acre. In the MUC designated area, residential uses are expected to comprise between, again, 20 and 50% of the area designated for residential at gross densities ranging between 6 and 15 dwelling units per acre. Approximately 50% of the overall MUC area is proposed to develop with residential uses at a gross density of 6 units per acre. So right at the bottom end of that target density in the comp plan. Although the residential density is consistent with with that desired in the comp plan for the MUC designation, the proposed development isn't consistent with the other MUC design elements that pertain to integration of uses and vehicular interconnectivity between developments due to the orientation of the proposed development in relation to the future non-residential uses to the north and the gated development, which restricts access and hinders integration of uses as desired in mixed-use designated areas. Breath. The city council should determine if the proposed development plan should be modified to be more consistent with the general mixed use and MUC development guidelines in the comprehensive plan as required by the current development agreement. Again, a rezone of 56 acres of land from R8 to R15 is proposed for the area to be platted. So the southern portion of the subject site. Let me see if I have a better exhibit. It's more phasing, but the southern area is roughly 56 acres, excuse me. And some R15 zoning is proposed for the area, proposed to be platted as well for the future development area to the north. Annexation of 0.86 acres is proposed to R15 for a strip of land located on the west boundary of the project. I kind of went by it pretty fast. There is a water body, and so some of this was not annexed, and it's a part, and that's some of the de-annexation even is shown on the right here, these small slivers of land that are being, I'll just say cleaned up as part of this proposal. That's the de-annexation strip is 0.52 acres. It's currently in Ada County, again, located on the kind of the west side. And on the north sides of Via Roberto Street is requested that it was inadvertently included in the original annexation. This area was previously included in a record of survey to adjust the property line between two properties in the abutting property to the west, the Bruno property, but was never recorded, so it's still part of the original parcels. Before a new property boundary adjustment or record of survey can be approved and recorded between the properties to rectify the issue, the property needs to be in the county. So we can't adjust property lines between county and city land. It needs to be one or the other. So that's long story, relatively short. That's kind of what's happening there. Preliminary plat is proposed consisting of 228 single-family residential building lots. Let me get to that again. So here's the preliminary plat. 228 single-family lots, 41 common lots, and 16 other lots, again, on a little over 51 acres. And the proposed R15 zoning district, and the 5 to develop in 5 phases, as you see in the middle exhibit on the screen. The overall gross density there is 4.43 dwelling units per acre. Based on 51.5 acres of development area, a minimum of 15% or 7.73 acres of qualified open space is required to be provided. A total of 9.75 acres or 19% is proposed, consisting of several open grassy areas exceeding 5,000 square feet in area each. Linear open space, 50% of the street buffer along South Locust Grove Road, 100% of the street buffer along East Via Roberto Street, which is a collector street, and a protective buffer dedicated for active access along the Rawson Canal. Parkways along local residential streets are also shown on the open space exhibit, which exceed the UDC standard. So again, the kind of teal color, I guess it is, would be your open space that I just verbally described. A minimum of 10 site amenity points are required to be provided. Site amenities totaling 24 points are proposed, consisting of a clubhouse greater than 5,000 square feet in size, paved sports courts, multi-use pathways, and pedestrian circulation system aligned with linear open space, which exceeds the UDC standards. As I previously mentioned, a PUD is proposed, or planned unit development is proposed for a mostly majority of the lots are gated residential development. Again, there are some mixed types of housing though, single family residential attached and detached homes, front loaded and alley loaded with a variety of lot sizes, setbacks, and home designs, except for the 16 homes at the southwest corner of the development, which have public street access. The other 212 homes are within a gated community. So again, that's a relatively high portion of the lots proposed that are behind the gate. And then behind the gate, obviously, are private streets with alleys and common driveways. The gated portion of the development will be restricted to residents 55 years of age or older. And the average residential lot size in the gated portion of the development is 4,665 square feet. The average residential lot size in the non-gated portion of the development is 7,233 square feet. See if I have I guess I don't have that call out there for the different lot sizes, but the PUD includes a request for deviations from certain UDC standards as follows. UDC 11-3F 4A 4B restricts gated developments to more than 100 dwelling units. And again, there's 212 units proposed. And reduction in the local street setback to living area is requested from 10 feet to 5 feet for the alley loaded, also known as carriage lane units. Several conceptual building elevations were submitted for single-story and two-story detached and attached single-family homes. A variety of materials are proposed, including vertical and horizontal lap siding, board and batten siding, fenestration with stone brick veneer accents, and a variety of colors and design elements and features with varying roof profiles and wall modulation that demonstrates the high quality of development proposed. The applicant is requesting the following approvals from the city council. So this is a waiver. Essentially, we don't allow private streets to connect to arterial roadways. And again, Locust Grove is an arterial roadway. So that is requested for you tonight to allow East Bingley Lane to intersect Locust Grove, and UDC 11-3F 4B2 prohibits private street connections. I just mentioned that, sorry. So that's the code citation. That section is 11-3F 4B2. And then approval to exceed the maximum block face standard in UDC 11-6C 3F of 1,000 feet with a pedestrian connection for block 1, a portion of which lies along the Rossing Canal. So maybe going back to the layout a little bit, actually that one might work. There's no street connections because of the Rossing. They do have some micro pathway connections that sort of break that block up, but this block is technically longer than our code allows. So that is also a waiver that the applicant is requesting this evening. During the November 20th Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, the commission did recommend to council approval of this project. In favor was Amanda McNutt, John Wardle, Mike Wardle, all with Brighton Corporation. No one testified in opposition or signed up in opposition. Commenting was Julie Edwards. Written testimony was received by Joanne Tima, Holly Myers, Sean Freeman, Amanda McNutt, again with Brighton, largely with responses to the staff report. Aside from that, that's the only additional testimony I have is the applicant commenting on some of the conditions of approval. I'll get to that in a second. Key issues were the rezone request due to the increase in housing densities and associated impacts. So that was a topic. Seems like there was some similar to the last project we talked about, being some in favor of a 55 and older community, as it wouldn't impact schools likely, but some that were against the proposed rezone to again, the density increase that it would allow. Which provides a little transition to the low density R4 zone properties to the south. Also, there was belief that the developer should be held to UDC standards without deviations, including the request for over double the amount of homes is typically allowed within a gated community. So again, that was some of the key conversations or discussions. There was some discussion about, again, the MUC and the purpose of a mixed-use development, particularly as it relates to this side of the arterial intersection, so Lake Hazel and Locust Grove, and that mixed-use community designation spans across that intersection. There's some conversation about that. The reasons are lack of the integration of uses due to the residential developments being gated off. Again, that the kind of at the core of a gated community is that you sort of wall yourself off from some of those other uses that would otherwise have better connectivity and integration. Generally, though, they're in favor again of a proposed 55 and over development, but there was some concern about the common driveways proposed, and actually this exhibit still shows one of those common driveways coming off of the private street network. So commission changes to staff's recommendation. The commission directed the applicant to continue to work with the city on the timing of the phasing of the amenities. I would include, I think that also includes amenities being some of the landscaping and the timing and installation of that as well. That there is good faith to be able to work with the county and the city to get all the permitting correct. Again, that largely goes back to the zoning and those strips of land and the de-annexation and the zoning and the property boundary adjustments associated there, and to provide an updated plat for city council in regard to the stub street for the McGurdio property to be incorporated at a later date, if at all. No specific changes were made. So those are some of the quote unquote outstanding issues potentially too, or some of the things I just highlighted. So I won't belabor that anymore, but if there are any questions or you want to talk about any of those things, I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions for staff? Okay, would the applicant like to come forward?
So do I need to stop my share?
Just want to make sure I get this shared. There we go. Amanda McNutt, 2929 West Navigator Drive. I'm here with Brighton tonight, and this is Apex Cadence. Thank you, Caleb, for presenting tonight. I know you kind of got thrown into this, so appreciate that. So this is the next step in our Pinnacle development. At the intersection of Lake Hazel and Locust Grove, there's 212 residential lots in an age-qualified gated community with private streets. It'll include a mix of single-family detached, alley-loaded or carriage lane, and attached or paired homes. There's also 16 conventional single-family detached, kind of in that cul-de-sac on the east side. We are proposing to rezone from R8 to R15. This is primarily because it provides us better flexibility in those setbacks. With a PUD, we could do this, but it's just a lot simpler to do it this way. So that's kind of why we're doing it. Here's an example of what the designation is here. Although we do have some mixed use community, the majority of this is actually medium density residential with just a tiny sliver of medium high density. And we are not requesting a future land use map modification. In this, I kind of wanted to show what's proposed now, what's existing, and just kind of quote a few things out of the future land use compliance. So it's residential density is supposed to be between 20 and 50% of the development area, and about 50-50 right now between residential and non-residential uses out here. Medium density residential allows 3 to 8 units per acre, and we're at 4.6 for this development, which again is kind of the brunt of that area. This was talked about in depth at the commission hearing, and so I wanted to touch on it a little bit here as well. Successful projects would reduce vehicle trips for nearby residents. I feel like in this area, Cadence will be mostly the nearby residents. There's not going to be a whole lot else that actually develops around here due to the Rawson Canal. It just limits what could happen there. So I've kind of put some arrows of how traffic could potentially flow through here. Most everyone is going to use Via Roberto or future collectors to the north and east. They're shown in pink. Those red lines just kind of indicate how traffic may flow through there. So while there may be slight restrictions to vehicle access, there's plenty of pedestrian access in here, and those are not restricted for people to use. And again, I just feel like there's not a whole lot more that's going to happen out there that would use those pathways. Vehicular pathways is what I mean. And then I just wanted to show how we comply with this area in particular and what the comp plan kind of calls out specifically for connections in here. If you'll notice on the diagram to the left, this is from the comprehensive plan, and it actually calls out pathways specifically as the primary and secondary connections through the mixed-use community designation. So even in the comp plan, it's not saying that vehicular access is the primary connection. It is pathways that are the primary connection. We have our commercial, medium high density residential and our single family residential almost exactly lining up with what that graphic shows. And then I've just kind of highlighted with arrows there what our primary pathway connection would be and what our secondary pathway connection would be through there. We do have a 10-foot wide pathway that's going to go along the Rawson that would connect to future roadways as well, but we did add a north-south connection directly to that future roadway. I'll agree with Caleb on this. It's kind of some weird cleanup stuff that we need to do on this property. There's a small portion of the Rawson Canal that is part of this property that was not annexed with the mass annexation that we need to now include as part of this project. And there was a small piece of property that was included that shouldn't have been, that we need to de-annex. And essentially, this is going to be mostly handled by the county and not us. If we were to receive an approval tonight, the next action would be for the county to rezone the parcel, and then the owner who that actually needs to go to would then be responsible for doing a property boundary adjustment. There is a condition that states we need to have this all done before we submit our first final plat. We felt like that timing was maybe not the best because we don't have control over the majority of this process. Really, the only control we have over the process is what we're doing tonight. Everything beyond that, we can't control that timing. We do understand it needs to be completed though, and so we were willing to do that with our last final plat to make sure that that's done prior to this project being completed. Again, this just kind of shows what we're asking for as far as the PUD setback changes. If we had kept R8, there would just be a lot more to this. But essentially the only request that we're making from the R15 setbacks is that the local street would be 5 foot instead of a 10-foot setback on our carriage lane specifically. We are proposing to complete this in 5 phases. We have included a small portion of the northern half to be rezoned with this as well. The very north, or the orange there, will be future. All of that orange and yellow actually will be future. The rezone is just easier to do right now, but we'll come back in with everything to the north in a future pre-plat. This was talked about as far as what's allowed by code for private streets connecting to an arterial roadway. The connection shown with the 190 feet called out is a private street with a gate. We did want to increase that depth there so there was plenty of stacking for people if Locust Grove gathers a lot of traffic through here. I don't know that this necessarily will be the main point of entry that people use, or if they'd prefer to use via Roberto, but essentially we would allow 10 to 11 cars to stack in there before the gate. So I think with that and just where it lines up with the roadway to the west, that's a good place for a private street. Additionally, we are asking for more units in a gated community than what's allowed by code. 100 are typically allowed by code in a gated community, and we're asking for 212. There's several of these in the city, and this isn't actually the odd one out as far as asking for more units in a gated community. We are offering one more gate entry point than we have in our other developments. And we haven't had any issues with that being gated or access getting backed up at all. But we did feel like with the number of units, it made sense to have 3 gates here, or 3 access points. And then Caleb also mentioned this, that we do have one block face that exceeds the allowed 1,200 feet unless a waiver is provided. This is essentially because the Rawson Canal exists there, and it just the way it develops out. There's a long roadway. Traffic through here likely won't be fast anyway, but we are providing a bulb out at that circled location just to help slow traffic. As mentioned, there are several pedestrian crossings and accesses as well. Just no true intersections because of the long stretch there. And so we are asking for that waiver to be approved for a street greater than 1,200 feet. We're required to include 10 amenity points, and we are providing 24. We have a large clubhouse, sports courts, a lot of multi-use pathway and sidewalks, and then pathway in a linear open space, which is that along the Rawson Canal. I did want to show kind of how our pathway network works. We have built most of the sidewalks in teal out here already, other than what you see with Cadence itself. There is going to be substantial connectivity throughout this entire area. We'll also be providing the 10-foot pathway along the Rawson Canal with 8-foot connections internal to Cadence. Again, all of these will be open to anyone, including the internal sidewalks. I wanted to point out the circled orange area. I apologize, it's a little small, but it's there on the left-hand side. That's kind of the first connection point that would be used in this development for people to access any other point. For instance, if they wanted to walk up to the library or if they wanted to walk to the park, that's the access point that they would use to get to other places. Basically, a request was made in the conditions to provide all of the 10-foot sidewalks and the 10-foot pathway with our first phase. And they're kind of pathways to nowhere at this point, just because the development to the north where we're waiting on that is not going to provide a connection. They're going to have to cross the street to use that connection anyway. So we would prefer that we build that as phases are developed rather than all at once. Here are some examples of another Cadence property that we have already developed, and these amenities are going to be extremely similar to this. And here are some of our elevations, which are slightly more updated than what was shown in the other. Our conventional homes are there on the left in blue. These are just typical front-loaded homes. In pink along the outer edge are our paired Cadence product. To me, it's actually kind of hard to tell that these are paired, but they are. We do unique colors and elevations to just kind of break those up and make them not look like one plane of a home, but two unique homes. These are the age-restricted paired units, and this internal or the orange carriage lane are also within the age-restricted area. These are all detached, single-family, and again, carriage lane or alley-loaded product, so there's no garage on the fronts. So some conditions that I've kind of mentioned throughout this project or as I've gone through this presentation that I'd like to come back to, that we were asked to subdivide prior to submittal of any building permits for the development. And we would ask that that's except for building permits associated with the community amenities, including but not limited to the pool house and gazebos. Essentially, that allows us to get started on amenities from the get-go so that as residents move into that very first phase, our amenities are complete and they can come in to a development that has amenities ready for them. The second would be that prior to the signature on the 5th final plat, the property boundary adjustment between that de-annex parcel and Ada County would be finalized. Again, this is just kind of outside of our control, and so we're asking for that to be modified. The last two are about the sidewalk and pathway. And again, it's just not really connecting to anything. They're going to have to cross the road anyway to get anywhere besides internal. And so we would ask that those are approved to be constructed with the phase that they are adjacent to rather than all at the beginning. And I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
Amanda, one quick question. When we were looking at the overall development and you showed that the initial point was going to be out onto Locust Grove. I noticed you have 3 access points, which you mentioned. Do all of them have the 190-foot or just that one on the Locust?
Great question. Thank you. That one has a much larger stacking distance. Well, maybe not much larger, but it does have a larger stacking distance, probably, I'm guessing here, but I'm guessing maybe 50 more feet than the other 2 access points. And that's because Via Roberto is a collector, and so it's not as heavily trafficked as Locust Grove is. And again, with our other projects, we provided that at least minimum 50 feet because that's what's required by code. But I think we do a little bit more than that. And we haven't had any issues with stacking on any of those projects.
Mayor, follow up.
Councilman Overton.
But that's the 190, correct?
The one on Locust Grove is 190, yes.
The other 2 are about 50 feet shorter, roughly, give or take.
Yeah, I can measure it, but I'm not sure exactly.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Council, any additional questions for the applicant?
Sorry, I'm just going to add one thing. We had provided public testimony that we asked for one other condition to be modified. So if you read our public testimony, there's one additional condition in there that we had asked to be removed, but we are no longer asking for that. Essentially, the Meridian property was asked to be pulled into our pre-plat for the future pre-plat on the north to create a legal parcel of record for those individuals that live there. And we are now agreeing to that after speaking with those owners.
So, Mr. Mayor, if it's okay, I could put a little more context into that. There is an out parcel. If you look at both the rezone and the preliminary plat exhibit, yeah, Amanda's still driving, so thank you. There is a condition, and we'd asked that if it's been split in the county and it's valid, then that's fine, but we didn't get any proof that it had been split legitimately through Ada County. So that was our concern, is that you can't have we don't want to see a county enclave or an illegal split happen. So we put that condition that's great, subdivide it. But anyway, just a little bit of context. The existing home is on a parcel. We haven't been able to get proved up that it was legitimately split off from the rest of this property.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have anyone set up to provide testimony on this item?
Mr. Mayor, there are none.
Okay, is there anybody present who would like to come forward and testify on this item? And if you're online, you use the raise your hand feature. Okay. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Becky McKay, Engineering Solutions, business address 1029 North Rosario. I'm representing Mike and Linda Magurdio, who have the adjoining 205 acres. So there is undeveloped property that wraps around this parcel. I'd just like to let the council know that the Magurdios have retained a surveyor who's completed a survey, topographic boundary, geotech study on the property, and they've retained me to do the land planning for their property. So it is their intent to move forward with some type of a development plan and come before the council. So obviously, reviewing the application that's before you, we do have a few comments. Obviously, the rezone from the R8 to the R15, obviously increasing the density. We want to make sure that Public Works has taken into consideration the sewer capacity. We would hate to obviously submit application and find out that all the sewer capacity has been used up with the increase in density and the rezone to the R15. We are in that same sewer shed as Brighton, and then there's a portion of the property that goes to the north west toward the Costco, but we just don't want to obviously be the last man standing and not have any ability to sewer into the city, since their property is already annexed, and it is, I think it has a holding zone of R4. Secondly, Linda McGurdio's property, it's about 2.5 acres. It fronts on Locust Grove. The home there is, based on the assessor, is well over $1 million. And I'm concerned that, that if it was illegally divided, it has always been staff's and the council's intent that any illegal division that's taken place off of parent parcel be rectified by including that out parcel as part of a plat. You required it of me for Fall Creek, you required it of me for Spring Day, and I think I had a third parcel that I was required that even though it was under separate ownership, the fact that it came off that parent parcel, we could not allow that property to be left unplatted and legalized. And lastly, I'm concerned about this conceptual plan that shows a collector road going right through the $1 million house out to Locust Grove. We have no knowledge of this. It says conceptual only. So I'm questioning that. And lastly, with all the private roads, it has always been the staff and this council to make sure that we integrate our projects, that we have interconnectivity. And obviously with the private roads, that's going to force my traffic to go out to Locust Grove because I can't go into a gated private road community. So that changes kind of the whole mixed use community that under your comp plan talks about integration and making everything mesh. And I can't do that when I have private roads. I am cut off. So I just want to make the council aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that'd like to provide testimony on this item? Okay, would the applicant like to come forward to close?
Thank you, Amanda McNutt. As far as sewer capacity and public works comments, you know, they have looked at this and we didn't receive any comments that said there was a capacity issue. As far as the rezone is concerned, we're actually not increasing the density at all. We're just rezoning, but the future land use map and what was intended to be the densities will be maintained. We're not changing any densities from the future land use map designations. As I mentioned, we will be including the McGurdio parcel in a future plat, but that is for the north portion of this area, which it's going to come back later. So that's not actually what we're here to talk about tonight. And as far as the concept plan, I agree. It was really quickly put together because it was asked of us to put something together that showed access to that parcel, and we just kind of slapped something together. So we would work with the McGurdios and Becky to make sure that that plan worked for them and worked for the area for us as well. So again, that's going to be vetted with the McGurdios and us at that time. And if there's any questions, I'll answer those now.
Council, additional questions for the applicant?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I have one.
Oh, sorry, Robert.
Yeah. The integration private street, How do you see that working? I mean, just conceptually, what is does it make that property to the north only take access onto Lake Hazel? Is there even an access point on Locust Grove? Is it limiting to that factor in this case, as Ms. McKay talked about? If the private streets remain as is?
Yeah, that's a great question. With the north portion of the property not being fully developed, or really even the concept plan being fully vetted, there's a lot of things that we can do to make sure that there's access to Locust Grove as well as Lake Hazel. The private streets were only going to be internal to Apex Cadence. And so for us to provide something to the east, I think is doable, or sorry, to the west. But again, it's just something that we would need engineers to look at and make sure we can do. But I don't really have a concern that that's doable. I think it can be done.
Maybe I'll turn to staff. Because there's an access to that house off of Locust Grove currently, correct? Is it within the place where ACHD would somehow want to close that? Because I don't know what the proximity to roundabouts are. Do you have the same limitations on roundabouts? And is it even relevant in this case or not?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the question.
Looks like it's not.
I mean, it is, I think, obviously there's the roundabout and there is existing access to answer your first question there. There is an offset required to, and in fact, I'll draw your attention, not to rehash, but a couple of months ago, you had a project just a mile to the north where you had this exact, it was on the other side of the road, we had the same conversation. So I think that is without opening this whole thing back up, that is one of the questions or concerns of staff is Tower Street is in alignment. There's a nice home there. If not Tower Street, now we're getting closer and closer to this roundabout. Something's got to give, and the private streets that the applicant's proposing, the mixed use community and that interconnectivity, while I appreciate the pathways, and pathways are great, and having the two connections to the north are great. If you don't have any vehicular connection between this project and the northern to be developed, you start to run out of options if you're going to have an access to Locust Grove. I mean, there may be opportunity to fit something in there north of the existing access or roughly where that existing northern access is, but you are getting very close to this roundabout. And again, there's similar conversations and concerns from a project just a mile away. Yes, there are grade changes with that one too, right? Coming down the hill as you enter that intersection. But I think that's something that hasn't been evaluated and some of the concern with, I appreciate the sentiment of working together, but I'm also a little concerned when it comes to agencies and their standards for when we can have, where we can have access points. Not having another one generally where Tower Street is.
And we do have ACHD on the line. I don't know if they feel educated enough to weigh in on this based upon any distance. Yeah, I don't know if they have a distance standard and where that gets measured from. Matt, any input?
Good evening. This is Matt Pack representing ACHD. We don't have policy that explicitly states the offset from a roundabout, but we typically refer to the signalized intersection offset spacing. Looking at about 330 feet for a right in, right out. And let's see, 710 feet for a full movement. This access was not evaluated as part of the staff report for this application, and it would be reviewed as part of a future development application for that specific parcel.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, just to put that in, Nick actually looked it up. It's roughly 400 feet or so from the roundabout to that northernmost access point. Just put that dimension there. You got about 400 feet.
Okay. That tower has no issues.
I mean,
it looks like
it'd be about 500 feet to tower. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So we do have someone else who's asked to has raised their hand. Council, would you like to take additional public testimony? Okay. Julie, you'll be recognized and the applicant, you'll have another opportunity to come back up.
Hi, my name is Julie Edwards. I'm at 1310 East Mary Lane. Just in talking about this McGurdio house, I did have a question. If that house is going to stay or will be demolished eventually? Because just the flow of the mixed use, you would have commercial properties to the north, which would be just south of Lake Hazel. And then you'd have this $1 million home. And then just to the south of that, you'd have this jam-packed gated community. So I was just curious what was actually going to happen with that house, if it would disappear once McGurdio develops whatever other section he's doing down there. That's all.
Thank you. Council, any questions? I don't know if there's anything there for the applicant that if you'd like to make any last final comments related to that, applicant does not at this time. Okay. Council, do we want to take a few minutes break to gather any thoughts? Do we want to, or you think you want to deliberate this at this rate?
Mr. Mayor, I'm seeing nods for a break.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and take a 15-minute recess and then reconvene at roughly 8:35, roughly. All right, we will go ahead and come back from recess. Is there anything that the applicant would like to share more after our break?
Oh, on this, oh, never mind, we're good. Okay. One other thing that was asked about was, on condition A2 V1, I had been asked to do an alternative compliance for the number of lots off of a common drive. This is specifically for the northwest corner. There are 4 units accessed off of a single common drive on one side. So code allows you to access 4 units off of a common drive, but they can't all be off of one side. Again, really just due to the way the Rawson Canal is in that area, it just kind of curves. It was best for us to do an extension of the common lot there and have 4 on one side. We were able to handle that with an alternative compliance if we wanted to, but it was asked if we could talk about it here before we did that.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can. So
Sure, go ahead.
that's me that thought it'd be good to daylight that request as we're at the public hearing. You can see the whole picture of the whole project and give staff that direction to issue an approval, or if you need more information, there's findings that go along with alternative compliance. I'll be honest, I haven't looked at the applicant's narrative yet, their justification for that. I heard it just now, but I haven't actually looked at what they're proposing in lieu of, to offset that or mitigate for the having more than 3 on one side of a common drive. But that was my request. Again, it seems out of sequence to have staff approve something after council's already acted on it. So I thought, well, let's bring it before the council. So I apologize, I didn't ask that earlier. Appreciate Amanda giving you an overview of their request.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Overton.
Amanda, I appreciate that. One other item I want to make sure that we touch on and are clear on, and that is 2P. Based on some of the testimony we've had here tonight, I'm not comfortable with waiting on getting those 10-foot wide detached sidewalks on Locust Grove. Would you be comfortable with the original language of completing that entire area of sidewalk with the first phase of development tonight?
I think if either of those were going to be remaining the same, it would be the Locust Grove would be the appropriate one to keep over the Rawson, because if people are going to use a sidewalk, it's going to be the Locust Grove sidewalk. So I think we can agree to that one, although we would prefer to defer if that were so.
Got it. Mayor,
Councilman Overton.
if there's no more public testimony, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion, a second to close the public hearing. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The public hearing is closed.
Mayor, I'm willing to take a
Councilman Overton.
shot at the first attempt at this application. After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I would move that we approve file number H 2024-0061 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of December 16th, 2025 with the following modifications. On item A1E, we accept the change in language from the applicant to state the subject property shall be subdivided prior to submittal of any building permit applications for the development, except for permits associated with community amenities, including but not limited to the pool houses, and gazebos. On item A2-6, that council, we grant the request for alternative compliance application has been submitted. On item 2-0, we approve the language change submitted by the applicant to read that prior to the signature of the Phase 5 final plat, the property boundary adjustment between parcel S140-613-1700 and S140-642-7800, S140-641-7700, and finally S140-611-0355 shall be finalized. The applicant shall submit proof of such in the form of an approval letter from Ada County and a record of survey. On the item 2P, we stick with the language presented by our staff, which was the 10-foot wide detached sidewalks along South Locust Grove Road and East via Roberto Street be constructed in their entirety with the first phase of development. And on the last item, 2Q, we go with the language change by the applicants that the 10-foot wide multi-use pathway along the Rawson Canal shall be constructed at the time of the adjacent phase is constructed.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Would the second like to repeat the entirety of that motion?
No, Mr. Mayor, not this evening, if that's okay, but I do have a question either for staff or for the motion maker.
Councilman Cavanagh, you're recognized.
It has to, relates to A1C. Because the applicant accepted or withdrew their requested changes, we didn't need to capture that in the motion, correct?
Correct. I appreciate the question, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Cavanagh. Yeah, it just reverts to what you had before you today in the staff report. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Motion maker agrees. Thank you.
Okay.
Of course, it is a great motion.
Is there discussion on the motion? If not, clerk, call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh.
Aye.
Little Roberts. Overton.
Aye.
Whitlock.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries. The item is agreed to.
One rolling.
Okay, with that, we will move on to item 23, which is public hearing for Apex Zenith H 2025-0041. We'll open this public hearing with staff comments.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The next item on the agenda is the preliminary plat for Apex Zenith subdivision. So the applicant requests a preliminary plat to subdivide 2 existing parcels into 7 buildable lots across 11.065 acres of land in the CG zoning district. The plat excludes the parcels containing the Costco site and the larger development, including commercial and residential to the south as a part of phase 2. As shown on the screen, the existing zoning is CG and the flume designation is mixed use regional and mixed use regional. The subject parcels were annexed in 2015 with the South Meridian annexation. These properties were given the placeholder zoning of R4 until future development. And in 2024, the property was rezoned to the CG zoning district as a part of the larger mixed-use project called Apex Zenith. After the annexation, the applicant submitted a property boundary adjustment to reconfigure the properties to allow for legal parcels for development. This is the reason why the Costco is not included within this subdivision. As a part of the larger project, the north-south collector, also known as South Optimum Avenue, the east-west collectors known as East Spire and East Spire Street and Aristocrat Drive are required to be constructed prior to the first occupancy in the development. In addition, with this application, the applicant is proposing 2 private streets known as East Tower Lane and South Momentum Lane and are also required to be constructed prior to the first occupancy. To add, the applicant has entered into a STARS agreement with ITD for improvements to Meridian Road. And this does include the deceleration lanes that you see roughly on the site plan for those access points off of Meridian Road. Regarding access, the applicant has had previously the access points to
Lake Hazel and Meridian Road were previously approved with a council waiver back in 2024 application. So these private streets, since the council waiver was already granted, there's not another one needed tonight for those private street connections to the arterial roadways. The applicant will be providing 5-foot sidewalk on both sides of the proposed private streets that connect to the 10-foot multi-use pathway along Meridian Road, Lake Hazel Road, and Optimum Avenue. The commission is recommending approval as presented in the staff report, and we have received one written testimony from the applicant in regard to the request for condition 5 to be removed from the staff report. And this would be condition 5. And I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Nick. Council, any questions for staff? Okay, would the applicant like to come forward?
Amanda McNutt, 2929 West Navigator Drive. So this is just a preliminary plat for Apex Zenith. You saw most of this come through in 2024. This is just the first preliminary plat for this area. As mentioned, it does not include Costco. That was a different thing. This is about 11 acres of property at the southwest corner of Meridian and Lake Hazel. Just a recap of kind of where we are with Zenith. We've got the rezone done. The development agreement is executed. The property boundary adjustment was completed, and the roadway and utility construction plans are done. So roadway construction is now underway. The STARS agreement with ITD is fully executed as well. And then we'll be putting design guidelines in for that area, which is similar to what we did out at 10 Mile, if you recall that. Just kind of have some control over the design elements in that area. Again, a recap of the area in whole. Lots going on out here. I'm not going to recap that too much because I feel like you guys are familiar. Here are the 7 lots and the private streets. You can see Tower there and Momentum. These will all be commercial lots. So any internal driveways or anything like that are just going to be commercial drive aisles. It's in the mixed use regional designation, and we are not requesting any modifications. And this was already rezoned with the previous application, so no further changes are asked. I did want to recap kind of what the private streets are, what the public streets are, and how the pathway system is going to work out there. So here in green, which is the top portion, those are private streets with 5-foot detached sidewalks. We'll have tree-lined sidewalks out there. They're estimated to be complete July of next year. The public street in blue, which is also on the north side there, has 10-foot detached pathways, and it's also intended to be completed in July. The southern section is all public streets with a variety of sidewalks and pathways, estimated to be completed in August, and the signal location per ITD is supposed to be completed in October. That's the only thing we don't have control over though, so take that one with a grain of salt. There was one condition that we didn't realize was an issue until we got to council. So the only reason we actually realized this was a problem is because that retail user contacted us and asked why they were being held up, and we realized that this was an issue. So there is a condition that says that Lot 4 must use a shared access between the Costco fuel station and again, Lot 4, they're off of Tower Lane. So that's the blue area that I've circled on this graphic. We felt like this maybe isn't the best idea. And the reason why is because that is going to be the fuel center. So people are going to come in one-way traffic up to the fuel center, just like the other ones are designed. And then they're going to come back out that same entry point. So if we ask for everyone on Lot 4 to take access from that same access point, it's pretty likely that it's going to start backing up onto Tower because people are going to have to come in, immediately try to turn left into Lot 4 and crossing both in and out traffic from the fuel center there. In traffic, probably not as much because they have quite a distance, but the out traffic is going to probably stack up, maybe not a ton, but 2 or 3 cars are going to have to stack up to get back out onto Tower. So we felt like having an individual access point onto Tower for Lot 4 made a lot more sense. And so we are asking for that condition to be removed. With that, though, otherwise, we did concur with staff recommendations, and we will stand for any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Overton.
Amanda, can you go back to that previous slide? So help me out. So is the blue circle designate where you want the access point? It is where you do not want the access point. So the arrows flowing from there, you want them to come into from the access point just to the west of that? Is that?
Yeah, Mayor, Council, the circle area is where they'd like the access point to be for Lot 4. And we would like that not to be the access point. And I think they probably actually want that like on the line between those 2 lots, probably shifted a little bit. But we would like Lot 4 to have their own access point, which would be that left-hand side or the kind of solid red arrows that show how traffic could flow through their parking lot specifically for Lot 4.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Carver.
Amanda, I'm sorry, I'm not tracking on this, and I'm thinking about similar locations that, you know, I've got one entrance in and then 1 to 2 entrances out. And what you're showing me here is entrance and exit is all in the same place, and that is it's a high traffic area. I'm just trying to understand what the advantage is in terms of traffic safety and traffic movement by keeping it all contained in one spot.
Yeah, Councilman Kavanagh, I agree it's not. So what we were asked in the condition was to combine all of the access into one point for the fuel center and Lot 4. And what we're asking is to have it as shown where there's 2 different access points. Because we really felt like if we have just one access point that's shared between the 2 users, and we don't know what the Lot 4 user is going to be, but whoever that ends up being, we don't want them to have to share traffic with the fuel center in and out of Tower, because that we thought would probably cause congestion onto Tower.
Mr. Mayor, if I can follow up.
Councilman Carver.
But I also think, Amanda, it's important for the fuel customers to have more than one exit out of there.
Maybe, are you trying to recreate what's at the 10-mile location?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. I mean, they function as a separate entrance and exit, even though they're through the same basic portal. You're getting traffic to rotate through. If it's,
I see that. Okay. I don't love that, but I at least see it's a separating a conflict point.
it's better than connecting to, I'm just thinking, if you had a connection to the mattress firm right next to it, it would seem kind of weird.
Like this, I'd prefer the way the Nampa location is set up, but this at
Oh,
least.
you like the Nampa Costco?
There's 2 It's closer to me than the Tema. This one was, I'm excited for.
No, I'm like that, I guess it's just that entire, like, that place that's worse than putting a Five Guy or a In-N-Out next to a Costco out at the Nampa one. That place is crazy.
Moving, we're getting
Sorry.
right. Amanda, thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Councilman Whitlock.
Just so that I understand the lines and arrows, Lot 4 is the southwest corner of what we're looking at in the center, and you've got solid lines coming in. So if you're coming east on Tower, can you turn left into Lot 4 with this proposal? Or is that only if you're going west on Tower, you have a right turn only into Lot 4? How can you access Lot 4 if you don't do it at the at what staff is recommending being a single entry point.
Yeah, Mayor and Councilman Whitlock, I believe you can turn left and right into there. It's just not shown. But you can kind of see the small black arrow there. I think you'll be able to, but to be honest, I'm not completely sure where that barrier is going to be. Oh, okay. So yeah, it'd be a right turn only.
And Mr. Mayor, follow up.
Councilman Whitlock.
And then to exit from lot 4, you would go up and out and onto whatever that road is.
Momentum.
Momentum. Which you could turn left on as you leave lot 4. Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Whitlock.
seeing no one else online or in the room that would like to comment on this, I've moved that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion, a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Yes, having the public hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just start things off with my thoughts. I think that
Councilman Whitlock.
I think that's a reasonable proposal to try to bifurcate the two uses there. I think driving both the fuel station and the occupants of lot 4 into one entry and exit seems a little heavy to me. So I think what they've proposed here is an opportunity for both ingress and egress to lot 4 that seems to work for me. So if there's no other comments, I'm ready to make a motion.
Councilman Whitlock.
I would move, after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number H 2025-0041 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of December 16th, 2025, with the following modification: that we do allow for the removal of condition 5 and accept the proposal by the applicant for access to lot 4.
Second.
Have a motion, a second to approve item 23. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh.
Aye.
Little Roberts.
Aye.
Overton. Whitlock.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries. The item is agreed to. Next item is item 24, which is public hearing for Hill Century Farm Townhomes, H 2024-0072. We'll open this public hearing with staff comments.
Mayors, member of the council. Next item on the agenda is the preliminary plat development agreement modification and rezone for Hills Century Farm Townhomes. The applicant requests a rezone of 5.45 acres from the CN zoning district to the R15 zoning district. A preliminary plat consisting of 70 homes and 18 common lots spanning across 9.1 acres, and a new development agreement to supersede the existing development agreement. As shown on the screen, the existing zoning is CN and R15, and the flume designation is mixed-use neighborhood. There's that rezone exhibit. This property currently is already zoned R15, so these are the CN portions that they're requesting be zoned R15 as well. Here's a overall concept plan of the area. So this broader mixed-use neighborhood was established through a comprehensive plan amendment in 2015, allowing for a diverse mix of uses. The existing CN zoning was originally part of the concept plan that envisioned 3 commercial pad sites, which would be these 3 right here. On the north side of the proposed development, a 76-unit assisted living facility on the east side, which is this right here, which is the other CN portion contemplated to be rezoned. while the R15 portion that is existing, which is the independent living that's depicted right here. In addition, the mixed-use neighborhood designation requires residential uses to comprise between 30 and 60% of the overall area. The applicant did provide calculations, and staff did as well, and staff's calculations came out to 59.2%, which was consistent with the mixed-use designation guidelines. In addition, the subject development is proposed to have 7.8 dwelling units per acre, which is within the 6 to 12 units per acre that's desired in the mixed-use neighborhood designation. The applicant cites a change in market demand as a basis for the requested rezoning and development agreement modification. While staff is generally supportive of the overall concept plan, there are concerns regarding the continued reduction of commercial pad sites in South Meridian, where neighborhood serving uses, commercial opportunities are limited. It should also be noted that much of the property proposed for rezoning was previously approved for an assisted living facility, a residential use within a commercial zone. The city council should carefully consider whether rezoning the commercial pad sites is appropriate. In addition, according to the student generation rates, the development will create 43 school-aged children. Currently, the 3 schools that will service this development are Hillsdale Elementary School, Lake Hazel Middle School, and Mountain View High School. Both Hillsdale Elementary and Mountain View High School are over capacity for the 24-25 enrollment. Staff is asking the city council to carefully consider whether rezoning the commercial pad sites or the commercial sites is appropriate, considering the school capacities in the nearby in the schools that would serve this development. A total of 1.7 acres or 19.3% of open space is proposed, consisting of linear open space, parkways, and a shared open space greater than 5,000 square feet. In addition, Hillsdale Park is directly south across East Hill Park Street, which would be just down here. The applicant is proposing a picnic area on the site that's greater than a picnic area for a total of 2 amenities, meeting the UDC requirements. Access to the proposed development, proposed subdivision is off of South Tavistock and East Hill Park Street, both local streets. These connections are made through 5 proposed private streets, which meet the requirements in the UDC. In addition, the applicant is proposing to complete the extension of East Hill Park Street, which is highlighted right here with this development, which would actually connect Tavistock with Hillsdale Avenue, which is the collector roadway that runs on the eastern boundary of the development. According to ACHD staff report, 502 vehicle trips per day are expected to be generated by this development, and that is an acceptable level of service to accommodate these trips. The applicant submitted conceptual building elevations. The applicant submitted conceptual building elevations, including a variety of materials, including stone, brick veneer, EIFS, board and bat, and metal accents. The commission did recommend approval of this application, and at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, there was discussion about the written testimony from 31 citizens and verbal testimony from an additional 3 citizens with concerns regarding school capacities, traffic and safety, parking ratios, utility capacities, density of the proposed development, and consistency with the comprehensive plan. As noted above, Hillsdale Elementary and Mountain View High Schools are over capacity. The citizens described the traffic in this area as gridlocked and which raised safety concerns. In addition, the citizens were concerned with the data used by ACHD, which dates back to 2019. Since the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, we have received written testimony from Martin Hill with concerns over building height. And Martin Hill is the gentleman that actually donated, I believe, the park, Hillsdale Park, and the property that the YMCA is on. And he submitted a copy of the agreement back when the park was donated that his view would not be obstructed with future development. However, the city was not a part of this agreement. So that's just something to note, that the city is not a party in that agreement. And we also received testimony from Sam Scranton with concerns over keeping mixed use commercial and residential. He referenced the hearing for Centerville, which was done back in 2021 by CBH Homes to the west, that was rezoned commercial to residential, further limiting commercial services in the area. And at this time, I will stand for any questions that you have.
Thank you. Council, any questions for staff?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Lo Roberts.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for staff, but it's different staff. I have a question for Mr. Neri.
Okay.
Regarding the agreement that we weren't a part of, but yet it feels like we were a part of because we were very much, it seemed like conductive and involved in the whole setup of that.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, so Nick is correct. The city was not a party of the agreement, but there is a view easement that is recorded by Mr. Hill, that he does have an easement through that property, but it's not through the city's property, and I believe it's not through this property. So or actually, it may be part of the park property restriction, but I don't recall. I'd have to look I haven't seen that today. But it's correct. We weren't a party to it, but we certainly were aware of it. I mean, that was part of the whole discussion around the park donation, the why that was coming in and all of that happened at the same time. So we knew that was there.
Thank you.
Council, any additional questions for staff? Okay, would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Eli Bensky, 2929 West Navigator Drive. Thank you, Nick, for your presentation. We are here for Hill Century Farm Townhomes for the rezone preliminary plat and development agreement. Sorry, I'm trying my clicker from up here and I might not. Let me grab my laptop. Thank you. This property is located generally off of Amity and Eagle, highlighted here in yellow. The property is currently zoned commercial neighborhood and R15, and we are requesting a rezone of the total area to be R15. The comprehensive plan and land use map designate this property as mixed-use neighborhood, and we are not requesting a change to the comprehensive plan. The concept diagram that's included in the comprehensive plan shows how ideally this development should take place. So your commercial or your community services would be on the corner of the arterial and the collector, which ours are currently. And then it would then gradually go towards the residential. So here we are proposing the Hill Century Farm townhomes. And then bordering that is the single family residential, which would be Century Farm Cadence, and then the greater Century Farm community as well. I do want to notate that the streets within this development connect directly to the drive aisles in the commercial, and so do the pedestrian connectivity points. As Nick mentioned, the residential uses are required to be less than 60% in this designation. He did also mention we have a little bit of difference in our math. After thinking about this, I do believe that it's this brown portion between that's like disconnected in the brown. That's actually been donated to the park. So I think that's where our math is not coming together. Our math said 57, his says 59%. Regardless, we are within the threshold of the future land use map. I do want to point out when we started this project as part of our master plan, the park, the school, and the YMCA sites were all part of the mixed use area. Since then, there's been a comp plan realignment brought on by the city that redesignated that to civic area. It is just something that we wanted to point out because it is something that we were well aware of at the time and we were well within the residential percentages. Again, we still do meet the comp plan, but it is something that we want to point out. As Nick mentioned, one of the concerns in this area is that we're lacking commercial between not having enough and not having enough diversity within this area. Within a mile of the intersection of Eagle and Amity, these are the commercial uses that are available to residents and people that are driving through this part of the valley. In the comprehensive plan, the MUN sample uses are listed here. In green is everything that is being provided in the MUN area. As you'll know, that higher intensity uses are not expected to be within the MUN. Excuse me. So things like a Vicar drive-through are not expected to be in this area. A big resident or a big restaurant is not expected to be in this area. With what is in the area is aligning with the comprehensive plan, like medical offices, smaller scale gyms, independent nail salons, things like that. In Hill Century Farm, we are proposing 66 attached carriage lane homes. Carriage lane homes are accessed via the carriage lane, or commonly known as an alleyway. We are also proposing 3 detached carriage lane homes. That is merely because of the layout. We are sitting at 7.56 dwelling units per acre. As Nick mentioned, we're adjacent to community servicing commercial, as well as the park and the YMCA. We will be served by Hillsdale Elementary, Lake Hazel Middle, Mountain View High School, and we are currently working with West Data School District to provide a new school site in South Meridian to serve this area. One thing I'd like to point out, as it was a point of conversation, was school capacities. In yellow is Hillsdale. You'll notice that the enrollment has significantly grown. However, in the brighter blue, the thicker line, you will notice that the enrollment numbers through all of Southern Meridian has actually declined. So what this actually tells us is that there is not a capacity limit within all of our South Meridian schools. It is actually a boundary issue where we need to reallocate where students are going to school. Currently, West Data School District is redrawing their boundaries on the north. Once they are done with that, they are going to be redrawing boundaries in South Meridian as well. When we spoke with them, they did say that they don't anticipate it being the year after they finish North Meridian, but that it is something that they are going to be considering immediately. Another thing that I'd like to know is that Brian is committed to the community and the education here. We've donated land to complete the offsite infrastructure for the construction of this very school that we're talking about, Hillsdale Elementary. We've also donated land and completed the offsite infrastructure for the construction of South Meridian Jump Prep that is off of Lake Hazel. We're actively working with West Data School District to ready an additional school site that's going to serve the South Meridian area, and an additional charter school that's going to serve grades 6 through 12, also here in South Meridian. That's not to discount other things that we are doing within the greater Meridian area, but South Meridian is obviously the point of conversation tonight. In terms of the streets, the internal portion of Hill Century Farm Townhomes is going to be served by private streets. The main reason for private streets here is because we are connecting directly to drive aisles, and ACHD does not allow us to do that with public streets. So we are required to do the private streets here. The dotted pink shows where on-street parking is permitted. The solid pink is no on-street parking. The blue is the public streets that will gain access to this community. And then the orange is our carriage lane, which are no parking because we don't support that on the alleyways. The amenities within this development include a picnic shelter and 5-foot detached sidewalks. We are proposing 19.3% of qualified open space, well above the 15% required. These are some of the homes that you will see in this development. On the bottom left, they are the detached. Again, we only have 3 of those, but it's important that you guys see what those would look like. In addition, we have our paired units. This is also to be visible at the Pinnacle Vieira development. So the top right photo is of that development, and this is what we ideally will see if this is developed out. We do concur with staff's conditions of approval, and we also request your guys' approval here tonight. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Little Roberts.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Do you happen to have a map that would show if we can see the hill property and that view regarding the townhomes?
Yes. Okay, so here's actually a side by side. On the left, we have the proposed of this project, and on the right, we have of what the previously approved with the assisted living would have been. The yellow is what was in the agreement that you guys saw. It was like a grayscaled scan. So we overlaid it with our master plan just to make it a little bit easier to see. But the yellow is that viewpoint to Table Rock. The agreement was that it goes through the park, and I'm not sure if that part was written, I apologize. But the agreement was with the YMCA and through their property. It was not through our development. So the yellow still remains visible through the YMCA's property.
Mr. Mayor, follow up.
Councilman Little Roberts.
So the concern was the assisted living, was it a single story? Because kind of the way I read it, the concern was a single versus two-story, but then if it's out, if I'm guessing that you're saying it's out of the development or the line of sight agreement as it was written.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council and Little Roberts. The slide that we have now actually shows the height differences. So this is the approved Viera assisted living heights. So it was supposed to be single story. However, it was also supposed to be taller than our townhomes are proposed to be.
Thank you.
Council, additional questions? A sideways question that may or may not even be relevant, but I only ask this because I know a restaurant owner who's been trying to find property in South Meridian to build a restaurant. Is what you're saying a restaurant would not be a suitable use, a sit-down restaurant in this area? Because it's not it wasn't in the list that was articulated. And I guess I don't know if that's for yourself or Nick. In its current zoning situation, would a sit-down restaurant be eligible in this location or not?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So yes, those are sample uses. The comp plan is guiding, sample uses, but yes, a restaurant is a permitted use in the CN zoning district. That is correct. So it would be principally permitted under the current zoning designation. That is correct. So it'd be administrative approvals. That is.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Is there anybody who signed up to provide testimony on this item?
Mr. Mayor, no.
Okay, is there anybody present who would like to provide testimony on this item? I do see someone raising their hand. So Julie, you can unmute yourself. There you go.
Hello, this is Julie Edwards again, 1310 East Mary Lane. I just wanted to say that, I have kids in the school district. I attend a lot of the school board meetings, and I see the stress that is on these schools, with Hillsdale as one of them in particular, along with Mountain View. I think Mountain View is 350 over capacity at this point. I'm not sure exactly what Hillsdale is, but if anything, I feel like this location is better for the over 55 community than the one that was just approved to the south, because while it would still be, schools are still going to be an issue to the south, but those kids that would be attending zone to Hillsdale would have to be bused elsewhere, most likely. So that's an additional cost to the school. And I understand that Brighton has donated land to the school district, potentially. But the bigger issue is we're not going to get a school until we get money. And I feel like, a bond goes out for that, and residents don't want to vote for it because all of these subdivisions and communities are being approved. So their thoughts are, why should we pay for that? Why aren't the developers paying for the schools? We didn't ask for it, kind of thing. So it's a big school issue in my mind. So I see over 55 community and that wouldn't have any impact on the schools. That's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that'd like to provide testimony on this item? If not, would the applicant like to close?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to bring up Julie's point. Yes, typically it would go through a bond, but West Data actually already has funds for 2 schools. They have funds for a school that will be going in Star, and they do have funds for the school for the land site that we've donated in Southern Meridian.
All right, council, any further questions for the applicant? Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Little Roberts.
if no one else has anything, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
Have a motion second to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The public hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Little Roberts.
if we don't have any discussion on this, I would be happy to move forward with a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to have a little discussion on this one.
Okay.
I want
Councilman
to
Cavanagh.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's important to first commend the applicant because there's no other organization that's done more to address the overcrowding in our community across the valley than Brighton. And I don't say that flippantly. It's true. My family has benefited directly because of your donations, and I think that is, I know there's many families that have benefited from that. This council's heard me talk time and time again about how special South Meridian is to me, and I know it's special to you all as well. And I have no doubt that if this is approved, that you will build a high quality development. And yes, it will impact the schools in that area. Century Farms, I still think this year continues to be the most bused neighborhood in all of Meridian. We have kids outside of that neighborhood that are bused into Hillsdale, students who live in that neighborhood that can see Hillsdale that are bused to other schools. Mountain View remains the most overcapacity high school in the state of Idaho, and I do not see that going away anytime soon. So while the district continues to shrink, the enthusiasm to live in South Meridian continues to grow. I can't support the request for rezone tonight, not because of those reasons that I stated, but it's because I think commercial property in South Meridian is a vital resource. We had a similar request a year ago. I said almost the same thing word for word. I'm going to remain consistent tonight. It's not to say that at some point, maybe this does make sense, but I don't think it makes sense right now. And so I will not be voting in favor if there's a request for a rezone tonight.
Thank you. Councilman Overton.
Little perspective from just over 24 hours ago, I had the opportunity to sit down with 2 people from West Data School District at a different meeting and was discussing capacity in schools and enrollment and where those numbers were going, and the fact that we saw some parts of the valley that were going down and some of them are going up. And this isn't an answer by any means, but this was the answer of the day, which was we are actively working on a realignment of which students go to which schools. Stand by. It's coming up in January. So left me rather hopeful that they're finally at a point. They've been going through a process that they're going to be going to their school board meeting with a plan and coming forward publicly with that next month. I don't know what that's going to mean for North versus South, but obviously it's something they understand because they do have schools that are really low and they have schools that are over capacity. I'm hoping that they help us on that end by rebalancing the populations.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Little Roberts.
Mr. Mayor, if there are no more comments to be had, I would move that we go ahead and I would move we approve. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, can I interject real quick?
Where are we coming from? Oh,
Over here.
Thanks, Nick. Sorry.
Sorry. I actually talked with the applicant. There is a lot, we, in the staff report, we asked for lot 13 to be removed to add a micro path. They were in agreement with that at the time. However, they do want to keep, that leaves a single parcel below that to where it'd be a single family home. So they want to remove actually lot 12 instead of lot 13. So with your motion, if you guys are going to make a motion in favor of this project, I would ask that you would amend condition 2E to remove lot 12 instead of lot 13. That would be my only request.
Okay, with that noted,
Yes.
thank you.
Councilwoman Little Roberts.
I move that we approve H-2024-0072 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of December 16th, 2025, with the following modification on 2E to remove lot 12 instead of lot 13.
Have a motion, a second to approve item 24. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cavanagh.
Aye.
Little Roberts.
Aye.
Overton. Whitlock.
Aye.
They say aye.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay,
can the, maybe it's, this is why we don't do late meetings. Can my vote be recorded as a nay, please? Thank you.
3 ayes, 1 nay, and the item is agreed to.
Appreciation, Mr. Mayor, for catching that.
All right. With that, we're at the end of our agenda. Anything on our future meeting topics or a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Cavanagh.
last meeting of the year. So I move that we adjourn and wish everyone Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2026.
Motion second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.